Sandra, you want to let me know when I can begin? We're good? Okay, very good. Good evening and welcome to the Leon Valley City Council meeting. We're so glad all of you could join us. Today's Tuesday, January 21st. It's approximately 2 minutes after 6, and we'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. All City Council members are present. And if you would please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin on the presentations, I just had a few comments on the rules of decorum. The City Council chambers is a place where all people are treated with respect and dignity, citizens, councilors, staff, and visitors alike. Anyone desiring to speak shall first be recognized by the presiding officer. City Council members, staff, and members of the public shall not shout, display unruly behavior, distract with side conversations, use profanity, threat of violence, or disrupt the orderly conduct of the meeting. This includes speaking or commenting from your seat or using foul language as you exit the chambers. I would suggest if you feel you may have a difficult time controlling yourself, please sit in the foyer. That might be the place for you to sit. No personal attacks on city councilors, staff, or members of the public shall be allowed. The presiding officer will warn the person that he or she will be required to leave the meeting if this disruption continues. Unfortunately, I cannot hear or see all that goes around in chambers, but the rules of decorum also allow any counselor to help monitor the situation by calling a point of order. I hope we do not have to go there. Let's again be civil and treat each other with respect and dignity. Thank you. Now let's begin with presentation number 1. Presentation, discussion, and possible action on options for the City of Leon Valley 4th of July 2020 event. We have Maribel Mendoza, Special Events Coordinator, here this evening to present. Good evening, Maribel, and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, City Council. Perfect. Awesome. So the purpose of this presentation is to present, discuss, and take action on our City of Leon Valley's 4th of July event, because we're going to blink and it's going to be there. Yeah. So proposed theme was to celebrate the red, white, and blue. So celebrating the colors of America. Concept is having all our parade, all our floats, everyone really celebrating the colors of America to really make it bright and colorful down the parade line. And a little bit from last year, what did we learn from last year? The Historical Society 5K did put on a very successful run. The parade was also successful, but there were just a couple of comments. For example, putting our Leon Valley businesses and organization at the front of the parade line. So I rearranged the application to allow that to come first. So if you are a Leon Valley resident, you check the box and we'll definitely accommodate that to our parade. And another concern we had last year were the restrooms at the church were not open. So I've ordered more portable restrooms to accommodate the parade. The festival last year, again, went smoothly. Just a couple of hiccups with advertisement. The postcards did not have a parade or festival start times. So I redesigned the postcard to include those times. And again, we'll discuss the times. Once City Council approves them, we'll have those new times on there. One of the street banners that's usually posted near Braun and Bandera area did have an incorrect time. So that will also be adjusted as soon as Council makes a decision on the time frame for the festival. Sponsorship letters to our most common sponsorships were sent out last week, and a couple of more will be sent out this week. And I will begin to speak to all of our organizations face-to-face starting next week, so we can start getting the sponsorships for the 4th of July. Another concern we had was the mayor's speech and the national anthem were done before many people had a chance to enter the park. So I've made a new time frame, again, depending on the time City Council decides to go with, to allow about 45 minutes to an hour to allow people to come into the park, and then we can start our opening ceremony and the national anthem. our gates and security. So visitors needed to be wanded, revisit maybe possible turnstiles. So I've scheduled a meeting with our police chief to revisit the security options to see what else we can do to accommodate that. ATMs, I know we've ordered 2 last year, but one looked like it was only one working. So we went with a different company. Now we have a total of 3 ATMs that will be available at the park. Or if there's anything else that we can add that City Council would like to add. City booth. Suggestions were to give more diet soda options, more of a name brand options for the soda, and or charge the increase of cost of drinks, wristbands, or charge an entry fee. So we will definitely have more variety with our soda options. The wristbands last year were $5. The sodas, I believe, were $1, and then we're going to try to revisit the possible entry fee of $1. So City Council can decide which way they would like to go, either possibly increase the price of the wristbands, the sodas, or keep the same thing, maybe add an entry fee of $1. And keep in mind that could also help us with offsetting some of the cost for the increases of our carnival rides and everything else that has increased this year. And maybe that can also assist us in helping count how many people entered the festival. Shuttles, I think there was a issue or possibly a concern about handicap accessible shuttles. We didn't have any last year, so I've ordered to have 1 handicap shuttle per location, and that will be advertised in the postcards. More lighting has been ordered for our festival. Fireworks, I know, I'm not sure if City Council or there was a concern maybe starting them a bit earlier this time versus later. So we went with a different company, and then we've possibly had a time of 9:15 and time of 9:25 at night, but again, City Council discretion, whatever time frame you would like to start the fireworks. And then end time with suggestions to end event earlier. The schedule allowed people to exit in a safe manner. So again, allowing all of our guests there at the park to exit safely, not in a rush. So now we go into our possible options for the 4th of July, and this year it does land on a Saturday. So I didn't make any suggestions to change the date. I figured the Saturday would probably be the best option, but if City Council decides to go with a different day, we can definitely do that as well. So our first option is the same as last year. We start with our 5K run, our parade, the pool water activities, the festival at 5, ending at 10, and then again the fireworks from 9:15 to 9:25, and again, whatever council decides. Option 2, we begin with our 5K run. We then move up our pool water activities from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We do have an evening parade from 5 to 6:30, and as soon as the parade ends, we do start our festival. But again, the fireworks display will stay the same. The time frame will stay the same. Option 3, everything stays the same, exception for the parade and the festival. So the parade will begin at 4. But during that time, the festival gates are also open, and the fireworks stay the same. Now, keep in mind with option 2 and option 3, the parade route will have to change to allow the festival to be open the same time frame the parade goers are going. Now, the reason why I made options for the evening is also to allow the parade goers to also attend the festival. I know we had a huge gap between the parade and then the festival that we did lose the crowd, so trying to accommodate them. So once the parade ends, we continue on with the festival right after that, during, or again, just depends on what City Council decides to do. So a combination of any of the above or another option altogether. But again, option 2 and 3, we would have to change the route to the parade. And if you remember, we started from the DPS building all the way to Carvel Skate Ring Park, and then the new route proposed would be from Church of Latter-day Saints, Huebner, all the way down Evers, and we would end at the Commuting Conference Center. So they'd park in there, and that's where it would end. So everyone would be aligned on the opposite ends of the road. And then we just look at last year's budget. I know I presented this during my previous presentation on the 4th of July. Again, the 2019 budget for last year, we had a discount for our carnival rides, and also we weren't charged for the fireworks. So that will change this year. We will be charged for fireworks and the rides. And again, the prices of a lot of our items that we've ordered have increased. And I just don't have a final number yet until I get the time frame of the festival, so I can get a concrete number of what we're looking at spending, or an estimate. Fiscal impact, so the budgeted amount, including our overtime, is $67,500. Next step, so we just received direction from City Council which option is most desirable, and can give monthly updates on how the organization planning is going. And I stand for any questions.
Okay, very good. All right, with our new rules of decorum, we now ask the citizens to please comment on what you've just seen, and then we'll have the council discussion. So let's hear from the citizens on what you think is the right option. What would you change? What would you add, delete?
Rita Burnside, Forest Oaks. I just came in, so I missed most of it. But last year, there was no band. Am I right or not? A band.
Oh, you mean in the parade?
In the parade.
In the parade, yeah.
Correct. We did not have a band. I believe it was a late registry for them, and they were able to grab the enough members. But I believe they are very interested this year for the parade. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else? Option 1, 2, 3, or 4? Yes, sir.
Blackmore. My understanding, y'all want to have a parade in the afternoon?
Correct.
It's really the hottest part of the day. That was one of the complaints before when it was in the morning or later in the morning. It was too hot. I would not be considered in the afternoon. It has to be in the morning. Earlier in the morning, whatever's good.
Thank you.
So in regard to that, Mr. Blackmore, I've looked at stats from 2015 from last year. There's about a 4 to 5 degree difference between 9 a.m. to about 2 to 3 p.m., which would be the highest temperature. After 3 p.m., so around 4:15 is when the temperature begins to drop. But again, it's the climate, it's Mother Nature, it's whatever she decides. But again, there is a 4 to 5 degree difference between our parade from 9 a.m., the difference between 4 to 5 p.m. So the temperature does drop a little bit after 4 p.m., which is why these options were presented.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else in our chambers, how about the council? What would you like to say, Councilor Charles?
Well, in option 2, although the parade would be in the afternoon, but I get out in the morning and by 9 o'clock it is hot, Mr. Blackmore. But in option number 2, it seems that one thing happens right after the other, and that seems like a good thing. You'll keep the crowd. So I like that.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rodriguez, what would you say?
Thanks a lot, Ms. Charles. No, I was going to say the same thing. I think maybe trying the parade in the evening, and then having the events go back to back concurrent would be a good idea. It might be a little cooler, hopefully. But I'm up for option 2.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Alcacer?
I like the option 2 also, except for fireworks, a 10-minute fireworks. We've never had just a 10-minute fireworks, and I just don't think, unless they get ridiculously expensive, that's what everybody waits for. So.
Right. I spoke with the fireworks. It's about 12 to 15 minutes. So it essentially be from 9:15 to 9:30 the latest, if everything starts on time.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Hody?
So tagging on to Councilor Alcacer, are the fireworks company willing to kind of drag it out a little bit?
Definitely.
Okay, and I also like option 2. I mean, nothing is ideal, but I know for a fact that in past years that I've gone to the parade in the morning and I go home and that's where I stay. So.
Okay. Councilor Bradshaw?
I actually agree with Mr. Blackmore on this one. I think the morning parade makes the most sense. I think there's different demographics of people that attend these activities. So people with young children might come to the parade in the morning, but might not stay till 10 o'clock to watch the fireworks, and it might not stay that late, especially they're not going to come from 5 till 9:30. They're not going to spend 5 hours at this event with younger kids. I just don't see it happening. So I think, and especially the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that helps out a lot. They have volunteers that come and help in the morning and help with the parade stuff. And then they're free to enjoy the festival and the fireworks later in the afternoon with their families. And so if we change it to parade, festival, fireworks, and they're having to volunteer during all this time, I'm not saying that they won't. It's just going to be harder to find people to help out, I think. That's
Okay.
my opinion.
Thank you for that. I also liked option 2, just for something different. And I was thinking, yes, it's hot, but it's hot but I'm wondering about the shade. Maybe we'd have shade on Evers that we don't have in the morning because it's kind of direct
Right.
sun, right? So I was just thinking about that. But I liked option 2 as well. And I liked the suggested parade route. I was kind of curious about that, where that would go.
Right. And our community and conference centers are already closed because of all of the road closures we would have. So a lot of our renters they've called about it, but they don't like the road closures that we are going to have. So it does kind of put a hinder in their party. So we tend to close the community and conference centers because of that.
But, it's worth a try. You can certainly compare and contrast from last year to 2020 and see the difference. But I think it's just having it seamless, just one event after another. And I think, like Councilor Charles said, we would capture those people from the parade. So do you have a goal for sponsorship money raised?
I don't have a goal in mind, but definitely the same as last year. If not, increase it for sure.
And sponsorship would also include the EDCD
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
contribution, which we have not requested for yet this year. Okay. Is this the time to ask for other questions, like Grand Marshal, or is that going to come later?
That will come later.
Okay,
Once I'm just
very
trying to
good.
get our
Okay.
time frame set in so I can get all of our orders in, and then from there I can give monthly updates on what is it that we're needing, like a Grand Marshals, and from
All
there.
right. So I'll save the rest of these questions for later, and then you'll come back with an itemization of how much carnival rides
Correct.
are, how much fencing is. Just so we could see all of the itemization of the. Okay, very good. So you just really wanted tonight just for the options. So
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right.
And then
Yes.
Fields on the, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's just point
Counselor,
I did
Counselor
have
Bradshaw.
one more
Okay.
question. Could you go back to the budget with the carnival rides and stuff, what it cost? That one.
Mm-hmm.
Just so I understand. So we brought in $50,000 from the rides. Was that just from the rides? Or that's just from the whole sales of?
From everything.
Everything?
Correct. Everything.
Oh, okay, that's what I wanted. I was just wondering if when we talked about the wristbands being $5, did it pay for the carnival rides, or was it way under?
It was way under. I think it was about $2,000. I don't have that number with me, but it was around that time, and I can come back with that itemized list of last year so you can see the comparison of what we're
That'd help
paying
to
now
make that decision.
compared to last year. Correct.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just curious because we were proposing again a $1 entry fee, and last year the council was completely opposed to that. Do y'all want us to even consider that at all, or do you want to see the numbers first before you consider that, or you just nix it?
I want to see the numbers.
Okay.
Is that the consensus, to see the numbers first, and then we'll see? Okay. All right.
I can definitely bring an estimate back next council meeting so we can see what we're looking at. It's just an estimate of what everything would cost.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right. So if there's no other questions on presentation number 1, we'll go to presentation number 2, which is presentation of proclamation pledging support of It's Time Texas Community Challenge 2020. And again, Maribel Mendoza, our Special Events Coordinator, will present this agenda item. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you very much. So this is our second year hosting the It's Time Texas Community Challenge. And this challenge is a statewide competition where you earn points for your city or town by making healthier choices. It's free, it's fun, and it holds you accountable for any New Year's resolution to stay healthy or to be healthy. You get to earn points for your city. So the city that earns the most points wins prizes, also wins a cash value of around $2,000 to input into a healthy initiative for the city. And how you earn these points, you log in, you go into the portal of It's Time Texas, you log in with your email and your password. If you're a previous member, if you don't remember your password, you're just gonna have to redo it and update it. If not, I can definitely help you to create a new online program for it. You make the commitment, you track your activity. So if you have a Fitbit or even an iWatch, you can track it and it gives you 50 points per activity. You can also take what they call healthy selfies, take a picture with your phone eating something definitely healthy and submit it into this portal. Then you earn points for your city.
Okay.
So this competition runs from January 6th through March 1st. And again, the city with the most points within your community population size will win the grant. If you do need help, here are a couple links that can help you. There is also my contact information. If you need assistance trying to log in or trying to create a profile, I can definitely help you. We are going to host a community challenge next month. So you'll definitely hear more about that in a couple of days. You'll see posts everywhere about a community initiative that the city is going to put on for this event. It is also on our website if you do need more information about the challenge and what it consists of. So a couple of new changes they made this year. Last year, it was based on the grant the city can win, and this year they've changed it where it's not just a grant, but anyone who is consistently uploading healthy selfies or water consumption points, you can also win prizes individually. So just because your city doesn't win doesn't mean you can't win on your own. So they kind of pick it as a raffle, and you would have to be on your email or check constantly on your messages when it comes to the portal, and you can see if you won something, whether it's a gift card or a new water bottle. So they've definitely increased the incentives when it comes to the individual who's participating in this event. And another change they made is signing a pledge. So before, our mayor and city council signed this pledge that would definitely earn the city the most points. If our mayor and city council sign this pledge, the city earns quite a bit of points. But now it's every single member that signs a pledge, takes a picture of it, and then imports it into the portal. Again, I can definitely help if you need assistance with that. Helps the city with 500 points. So any person, even city council member, when you do upload all of this to your website, you can sign this pledge, take a picture with it, and it earns the city 500 points per member. So I will definitely be at everyone's office, every city council meeting to help everyone sign this pledge and take a picture so we can get the points. And if you need, again, assistance, these are going to be out here by the table. So if you do want to sign or you do need more information, my contact information is there. So you can call me, email me if you do need help with any of the directions that are here. And with that being said, we would need a mayor pledge and a city council pledge, which I believe the mayor has the proclamation.
I have a proclamation, so we'll read that first, and then you'll ask for all of the council members and the mayor's signature on this, which earns us points.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Let me go down and.
Los Fresnos.
Anybody locally, Lynn?
Locally.
You know, I haven't been on the website yet, but they have them all listed, right?
For the population of the city, but on our
Testing.
population size, Los Fresnos was the one.
Los Fresnos. Okay, all right, so that's Los Fresnos. Are they in the valley?
I believe so.
Okay, all right, very good. So let's read the proclamation. Whereas, in support of It's Time Texas Community Challenge, I, Mayor Chris Riley of the City of Leon Valley, pledge to kick off It's Time Texas Community Challenge by declaring my support and encouraging our constituents to participate to earn challenge points for our community. I will email a photo of myself holding the pledge to Mayor Pledge at oh my goodness.
It's Time Texas.
It's Time Texas. That's awfully small.org. Thank you. To be featured on the challenge website require 10,000 points. Ask city council members to sign and upload a photo of the group holding the pledge on the challenge site, 2,500 points. Please do that, council. Okay, create and upload a short video that promotes It's Time Texas Community Challenge and calls on another Texas mayor to compete. That's 15,000 points. Establish or strengthen a community health collaborative in our community. That's 20,000 points. Host and speak at It's Time Texas sanctioned event in our community that promotes healthy living and the community challenge. That's 5,000 points. Now, therefore, I, Chris Riley, Mayor of the City of Leon Valley, Texas, recognize that a healthy community is more united, more productive, and more prosperous. As a result, I am committed to the health of our community and pledge to make our community a model for others to challenge and follow. My city is up to the challenge. Signed by my hand this 21st day of January 2020, Mayor Chris Riley. Thank you all very much for participating, and I will remember to go online. So here we go. And the whole council? So are we going to do that now, or? Okay. All right. Where should we put this? Give this, there we go.
Correct.
Officer's got a. Okay, only I would do that. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that, Chief.
No worries.
Oh.
Awesome. So now we have our
Okay,
city
come.
council members.
Come.
Yes, I will have you.
Okay.
And yes. Yeah.
I could go.
You sure? Resolution. Moving then to agenda item number 3, receive a presentation and provide feedback regarding a potential mixed-use development on approximately 3 acres, generally located at 6758 Poss Road. And we have, not Mr. Smith, we have Brandon Milan, our Community Development Director, zoning, I think we've changed.
Zoning and planning.
Zoning.
Planning and zoning.
Well,
Planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning.
that's on the agenda for tonight, so.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. Very good. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Chair Smith was going to introduce this item this evening, but he unfortunately was unable to make it, so I'll go ahead and introduce it. This is the second time that the owner, developers of the property located at 6758 have presented to council. They presented to council back in September of last year, and we've been working with the developers since they originally reached out to staff last year, probably about this time last year. And so they initially, wanted to get thoughts from the city on how to develop the property. So they did things the right way, came to the city first to get feedback. And so we kind of determined at that point in time we need to go through kind of a robust stakeholder process with both the zoning commission and council. We have a comprehensive plan that's not really providing a lot of feedback for what the community wants for this property. So when you have a situation like that, you bring the project to the community and let the community give feedback at the zoning commission and council. And so last time we came to council, it was y'all gave feedback. The general question for council at the last meeting was, what kind of development do y'all anticipate seeing here? Just high level land use. Are we talking townhouse project, mixed use, multifamily primarily? That was the big question. And so generally at that meeting, the council provided feedback to the developers that council was interested in seeing primarily a townhouse oriented project with some mixed use, some potential multifamily component there. So now the next step in that process, and also at that meeting, council delegated 2 council members to be liaisons to the zoning commission, where most of the discussion is happening, so we can have council feedback at those meetings. And so, developers recently presented to the zoning commission at our last meeting. They took their project to the next stage, which is looking at more overall site schematics, concept, sort of high-level layout of the property. So we're kind of taking this project in increments. They presented a schematic concept to the zoning commission. The zoning commission generally had positive feedback. They had some questions regarding traffic, urban design, but they generally had positive feedback. And so the developers wanted to present to the council again and give y'all an update and also get your feedback before they go to the next step, which is going down to the even lower level, which is looking at urban design, starting to coordinate more intensively with the fire department and really putting a project plan together. So that's where we are tonight. And so that's where I'm going to pretty much limit my presentation. I'm going to turn it over to them and let them do the rest of the presentation on their project and get your feedback. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Milan, would you please introduce your guest?
Thank you. My apologies. The 2 owners of the property, we have Samir Shahade this evening. He is here, and his partner is Azim Fancy, who is not here and is under the weather. So unfortunately, Azim isn't here, but Mr. Shahade is here to
Very
present.
good.
So,
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Shahade, and welcome. Yes.
I can see you guys as well. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Wonderful to be back. Thank you very much for making the time for us. I'd like to step you briefly. Well, I also wanted to refer to Rafael Sanchez and Diego Sanchez joining us. They are architects, and hopefully you will be working together on this project. They have a lot of experience in the San Antonio area, and we've been working with them very closely on this project. So we're here today to just give you a quick update. Our hope is that we get your feedback. From the very beginning, we took a very collaborative approach with the city. We intend to continue to do that. So we're not here, we can't operate in a silo, we're not sitting in an ivory tower. We're wanting to work with the community, want all the feedback we can get to design a project that we're all very proud of. So, oops. Got it, okay, thank you. All right, so first of all, we'd like to thank you. We've had great support and affirmation we've received so far from the Planning and Zoning Commission and from Council. We're forever grateful. We also want to extend our appreciation to the two Council members that have been working, being part of our presentations and working sessions with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Okay, so our goal continues to be to provide a differentiated and affordable living experience here in Leon Valley. We're vying for stylish designs, rooftop gardens, common social areas. And the whole idea is to add value to the neighborhood and help with the transition of this neighborhood in terms of meeting with your long-term vision. This is, again, to just get you back to the basics of this project, whereby we've conducted our market research. And our target market are these single parents working in the medical center area, annual income around $70,000. We're also anticipating professional couples or singles with no children, as well as empty nesters. The purchase price that we're shooting for is anywhere between $220,000 to $320,000. Again, the draw area is the medical center. This is from the banking industry. We did a lot of research to understand what does a $70,000 annual income buy you? What would you be able to qualify for in terms of loans and mortgage? So effectively, a $70,000 income will afford you a $280,000 house. So that has been the main driver behind how we design so that we can have the proper market instead of thinking in terms of just what is the most ideal, profitable. We're looking more at a little bit of a balance between what the city wants and what the market wants, right? So it's a little bit tricky. We need your help with that. All right, so you haven't seen this yet. Last time we had a little bit of a variance off of this particular plan. At this point in time, with feedback from yourselves and feedback from Planning and Zoning Commission, we have come up with this plan, which is about 55 townhomes and in total about 25 apartment-style condos with commercial. POS is right at the top end of this plan. So the commercial property, the commercial part of the property will be facing POS Road on the first floor. So we're looking at potentially professional offices, maybe a restaurant, maybe any type of retail, but we're believing it's going to be more professional offices than anything else. So some of the considerations here, I just wanted to point a few things. So we'll be requiring parking here, street parking. We need your help in achieving that. We have common areas here, so a swimming pool, workout facility in this area here, some rooftop facility here, as well as every single one of those townhouses. These are the townhouses. And every single one of them, these bars here represent the rooftop gardens. So some of the concepts that we're going after here, everybody will have indoor parking. So everybody will have their own garages, be it for the townhomes or for the apartment-style condos. We promise green space, we promise community areas, and we may go up to 4-story buildings, potentially just 3 with rooftops. So that's for the townhouses, we're looking at 3 stories with rooftops. So these are some of the concepts we've been playing with in terms of townhouses, a little bit modern. The rooftop area here for the rooftop gardens. We're looking at I'd like to expand a little bit on this concept. These are the alleys. The middle there is the front entrance. The gardens basically are in the middle area. And so right here, for instance, you're going to have this here is your front entrance, and the back is where the garages are, if that makes sense. In terms of this building here, the garages are going to be the entrance here, and the first floor would be mainly parking. We'll also afford visitor parking in there for the whole complex. This building here will have also garages on this side here for the top floors in this building. This is another concept we'll be looking at. Again, we're totally in concept mode at this point in time. So as you see, it's a walking area with front entrances here. The garages will be in the back. This is a model, potential model for the front building and for the back building. They're the apartments. So of course, any project needs to contemplate timing. We believe our timing is right. That's why we want to accelerate this process. The economy is still strong. So want to capitalize on that. We believe the location is great. We want to be part of this transformational forces in Leon Valley. So our hope is to get your support in that. We understand our risks that we're taking. We believe that this could be a joint effort where we're all working towards success. Obviously, affordability is going to be a big factor because we want to, that's one of our promises for this project. And I wanted to describe a little bit in this slide what the approval process is like, at least our understanding of it, get your validation. We have 5 steps in this process. We have the land use, conceptual design, urban design, zoning approval, and platting and permitting. So where we're at right now, so we went through the first phase. We presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we presented to City Council. That was back in around July timeframe. And then we've been working, in December we presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission the same plan that you have seen today, that we just showed. And we got their consensus that this is something they would like to proceed with, would like to see happen. So today we're here in this process, and we are here to seek your support moving forward. The next step in the process is the urban design, and we will be going to the Planning and Zoning Commission for that. After this, we have the zoning approval. This is where we come back to you folks, and we'll come back, we expect to come back towards May timeframe for your approval of the final zoning, which after receiving that, we will get into platting and permitting, where we go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and get their final approvals and come back to you for final approvals. So you get to see us twice more. Where we're at right now is we're here today. The next step will be May in front of you guys, and then again in July. We expect to start construction in August. So today we're here to seek your feedback and consensus on this plan, and we very much appreciate your time.
Okay. Mr. Shahade, thank you. And I'm going to reserve the council questions until we open it up to our citizens. That's the new process that we established at the beginning of the year. So if there's any citizens that have input for Mr. Shahade and his team, he'd love to hear from you, and then we'll hear from the council. Yes. And if you'll come to the podium and state your name and where you live. Thank you.
Eric Mata, 4 Stokes Canterfield, and just wondering, in relation to, on Poss Road, where is it in relation to Bandera Road? So wondering if maybe we could get a reference looking at that sketch.
But we're literally just...
Oh, Mr. Shahade, if you'll come a little bit, yes, because we are recording.
We're literally half a block away from Bandera. So there's a doctor's office there, and we're literally that piece of land right behind it.
So
It's
you're
an L shape.
on the west end of Bandera?
We
on,
are
on the west side
on the west
of
side
it?
of Bandera. Yes,
Okay,
that's
not,
correct.
not on, obviously not on the east side.
That's right. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Shahadi and his architecture team? Welcome back. Mhm. Yes.
I don't know you, so I just want to know, is your company from here?
Our company is based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and out of Canada. I'm Canadian.
So who's overseeing all of this?
So Rafael and Diego, they have a local company. They're architects and general contractors. So they will be overseeing the whole development.
I mean, the construction or
That's correct.
how about past that? Past
Right. So we will have a team that is local. I have lived in San Antonio before, and I plan to be back in San Antonio, and basically live here for the duration of the project.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Riddle. Good evening.
Yes, Philip Riddle, Resophie. Just had a question as far as the parking lots go that you're going to have in your complex. Will you be using pavers for drainage?
I'm sorry, would you be using pavers for?
For drainage, like we have in
Drainage,
our parking
okay.
lot out here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
So effectively, the design that we're going after here in terms of parking, all the parking is indoor parking. So if I understand the question correctly, is it related to drainage?
He's asking about low-impact development pavers.
Oh, right, yes, absolutely. So that's exactly what we would be using.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
Elaborate on that. So in his process that he showed up here, he showed the next step is urban design. So, questions of materials that are going to be used in the street or in parking areas, or like our parking lot that has some, circulation that's asphalt, but the parking spaces are pavers. We're going to get in, that's the next step in the dialogue.
Okay.
And so we'll be talking about that at zoning commission. So citizens and anybody else will have the chance to come to zoning commissions and ask that, give their feedback. The zoning commission will have the ability to say, hey, this is something we're looking for in our communities. So that's, to answer your question, that's the next step, and we're going to have that discussion in the public setting.
Okay, very good. All right. Yes, sir, please come forward and state your name and where you're from. Thank you.
My name's Tim Scranton. I live on Sunview.
Yes, sir.
This is my first meeting. I've lived here 20 years.
Okay, great.
This
Welcome.
address we're giving, 6758 Post Road, where is it?
I think,
generalization
yes, sir.
here?
Yes, sir. Let me ask Mr. Milan. I believe it's, yeah, go ahead.
Bandera Road, Foss Road, we could probably bring up something. I didn't realize there wasn't anything in the presentation. My apologies.
Across from Chacha's. Do you know where Chacha's is? It's across from there,
Literally, there's an undeveloped
next to
lot
Dr.
there.
Taylor's dentist. Yeah.
It's just
I understand.
It's a very general question, but
It's not on the corner, that's for sure. It's not on the corner of Bandera. It's on Boss.
the
Yeah.
landmark.
Chacha's is a landmark, that's right. Thank you, Councilor Alcacer, for that. Okay. Yes, Ms. Baldridge, while we're pulling up the,
Irene Baldridge, Pomona Police.
Yes.
I can't think of my address.
Okay.
This sounds like something exciting for our city. From what I see, there's a lot of color there, and that would be very helpful to bring, a certain location that would be desirable and pleasing to see. So I'm looking forward to something new.
very good. I agree, thank you. All right, yes. Ms. Joseph, good evening and welcome.
And Joseph, Trotter Lane. I just have a question. Is this whole, this is kind of for you, Brandon.
Ma'am.
This whole area from the dentist office down to the, I guess where the road turns on Paz, is this going to be all multiple use area, development area, since we have kind of industrial on one side and doctors on another?
Are you asking about that whole area in general, or just this particular site?
Well, both.
Well, this particular site, the land use, as Mr. Shahadi said, is proposed primarily for townhouse, with some mixed use and some multifamily against Post Road, and also in the back of the site back here. So I'll go ahead and let me rotate this. I'll see if I can't rotate this. No, it won't let me. There you go. So there's your site. There's Post Road. There's Bandera Road. There's Grissom Road. Everybody have bearings on that. And so now we can go back to having that as a frame of reference.
It's not a PowerPoint here. You go here.
Mr. Milan, is it just that one rectangular piece of greenery, or does it go down? Do you see what I'm saying? That was on your aerial view.
It doesn't go down.
It doesn't go down. It's just that square rectangular. Okay, just for
Backwards
clarification.
L. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So here's.
Okay, no, it's.
Here's the Post Road frontage here.
It's.
And then here's Bandera Road over here. So you have the car wash facility. And then you have a set of lots down here, and then you have Grissom Road right here. So this is the Post Road frontage. So that's, to answer your question, Mrs. Joseph, this is proposed for some multifamily and some ground floor retail, primarily townhouse, and again some more multifamily in the rear of the property. Mainly because that's such a, trying to get connections. It's hard to create a form. It's hard to duplicate the townhouse here without wasting land.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this proposed development in Leon Valley from our citizens? Okay. So we'll move to the council, and I think I'd like to ask Councilor Alcacer and Councilor Bradshaw, since you attended the meetings, what would you say first on this? What did you learn? What did you like? And whatever.
I would say first that they've been the most pleasant to work with, right from start and hopefully to finish. They've been open to all ideas. They've had to redo their planning a couple of times. They were receptive to the comments that we made at the last zoning commission meeting and that the commissioners made. And it has been a pleasure to work with them, and I thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you for those comments. Councilor Bradshaw.
Yes, I echo those comments by Councilor Alcacer. Thank you for this great presentation, Mr. Shihada. You and your team did an excellent job, and obviously well thought out, well prepared. On a personal thing, I don't know if my vote counts, but on this case, but could you go back a few slides, Crystal, to the renderings, I guess, of the townhomes? So between this one and then go forward one, I prefer this myself, the brick layout. But and I know you're the expert. I trust your judgment, and your marketing, and research. And I really like the look of this one too. I think it looks really modern and nice. And the other thing I thought of is you will have the best view in the city for the 4th of July fireworks on the top of those roofs. So thanks again.
Okay, very good. Councilor Charles or Councilor Rodriguez, do you have any comments this evening? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
This rendering of the mixed-use building that's up now, so in the lower section would be retail?
Yes,
Little shops and things?
Yeah, it could be retail or it could be professional offices.
Be great.
Like medical offices or accounting or lawyers' offices.
Well, actually, all the renderings look great, so.
Thank you very much.
All right, very good. Councilor Rodriguez?
Don't really have a decision. I like Mr. Bradshaw said, both renditions 2 and 3 are very appealing. I like the fact that it's going to give a boost to the city, a newer look, something fresh. So I'm all for it.
Very good. And Councilor Hody?
Early on, you said something about some assistance with the street. What exactly did you mean by that?
Right, we want your consideration more so than assistance. The parking, currently we have allocated street parking, so we would just want your approval for that. That's basically it.
You said street parking?
Yes.
Parking on the street. Okay, very good. Can we go back to the actual rendering of the proposal? Right there. Yeah, the one. Okay, very good. So is there only one way in to this project off of Pass Road, right? Because is that, I just want to visualize it a little bit better.
Yes, actually, this is a conversation we were just having informally with the fire marshal
Okay.
on the subject.
Right.
So we have the main entrance is here. That's where the gates are.
Okay.
We have currently, through discussions with the city, with Brandon and his team, there's potentially a proposed fire exit this way onto Bandera.
Oh, onto Bandera.
But then there's also another potential here onto Pass Road. So we have multiple options for having more than just one entrance and exit.
Right. Okay. I think safety is really important.
That's exactly right.
And then also, would you describe or explain the rooftop features? I guess I visualize two things. Number one, could I have a garden up there, an actual garden? And then number two, is it just like a patio? You have an outdoor patio on top of your apartment.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay.
It's a very common thing we're seeing these days in many cities. In fact, downtown San Antonio is hopping with this concept. It's a great selling feature. People love it. People with kids, the kids will have place to play. There are people who want just to have a barbecue and like a grill and have some plants. They can have that, lounging area, a hammock, whatever you decide to have, right? So this is your play area, effectively. You can do with it whatever you like. And the way we designed it, if you look at these white bars there, or gray. Sorry, I'm colorblind, so Raphael always has fun with me as we're looking at pictures. So this basically provides that privacy between each garden area, or the rooftop gardens. So you do not have to worry about being right next to your neighbor. Effectively, it's a private space, and it's for you to design it any way you like. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. And it's only for the people who purchase the very top apartments, because you're going to have 3 or 4 floors, right?
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So,
or is it staggered?
This here is a townhouse concept.
All right.
Right? So these guys are all townhouse concepts.
Okay.
Right? So a townhouse would have the main entrance from the garden area here, for instance, and then the back here would be the alley. So it's a 3-floor townhouse. It's kind of like this, stacked. You'd have your garage in the back.
Okay.
Your main entrance on the main level, which is the first floor. And then you'll have your kitchen, sitting area, dining area on the second level. Then you'll have your bedrooms on the top level. Then you'll have your patio on top of that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the 3 stories plus the rooftop. Okay. In the case, I probably confused you when I was talking about these here.
Okay.
So these are the multi-use buildings, where, for instance, in this one here where Pass Road is, the main level, the first level, will be your commercial space. And right in the back here, so say the commercial space is the front end of the first level, and the back is parking for the top floors inside the gate. And then the top 2 floors or 3 floors will have apartment-style condos that are for sale, right? And then the top of this building could potentially have its own rooftop area for the people in the building. It's common area at that point in time.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
That does. Thank you very much. Okay. I think that was it. Gardens patio. Okay. Well, as I got to meet your architects this afternoon and welcome. We appreciate it. And I was just sharing with them that we really appreciate you being proactive and coming first with your idea and gaining consensus, because I think it really sets it up for a win-win. And I think you hear and feel the enthusiasm in the room for your project. So very good luck for that. We appreciate you willing to come to us first. So.
Thank you very much. We never claim to be that smart, or we can come in and impose on you ideas. We're not that smart. So we always, from the very beginning, we wanted to work with the city. It's been truly a wonderful experience. I got to tell you, our experience from the very beginning, working with Brandon and his team, working with you folks, working with the Planning and Zoning Commission. We had some challenging questions. We had some challenges on design. We worked together on refining our design, and it's just been a true pleasure. And honestly, we're looking forward to this project very, very much.
Very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you've set yourself up for success, I do believe, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or
other
comments? Yes, before we leave. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
So today, just before I leave, the last part of this presentation was to seek your feedback and consensus. Do we get a nod from you on this concept, and can we rely on your support moving forward?
I believe so. That's what I heard from everyone. Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you. And have a wonderful evening and safe travels back to Canada or North, and then Raleigh again. Okay, very good. Safe travels back. Thank you, sir. All right. Moving then to agenda item number 2.4, presentation of the monthly financial report ending December 31st, 2019. We have Vicki Wallace, our finance director, here this evening to present. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let's see if I can get this to work without. I don't know.
I'm going to buy a new clicker.
I need a new clicker. Okay, so this is our monthly financial report for the month of December. So the one thing that I want to remind you of when you see the sales tax, that is the first sales tax that we have received for the fiscal year, because what you see in December is actually the sales tax for the month of October. So with that said, sales tax at the same time last year was down 5.11%, which is not something that I'm particularly alarmed about yet, because last year we were at 16%, which was pretty much a historical high for the same period of time, and that's because they did an audit, and so we had got a lump sum of the money coming back in. For January, we're already at 2.09, so we're okay. I'm not concerned with that whatsoever. If you see the miscellaneous revenue, the reason why you see that, we should be at 25%, but that one's at 38 because that's at $79,000 that we've received from the EDCD. The other thing that would really stand out, if you look at economic development, that's because of the $179,000 that you guys have given to remodel the community conference center, and then the other $313,000 for the Seneca engineering fees. Other than that, everything else is tracking well. Water and sewer, I mean, it's tracking higher than what it was. For a while, it was a little drier, but again, it's the winter months, so it's nothing that I'm concerned about. All of their expenditures are tracking like they should be tracking. If you see the miscellaneous and you see that at 243%, that's because we've now moved that EDCD money over to the water and sewer, and so that's why it reflects that way. The community center, there are no hotel tax. They pay them on a quarterly basis, so they have to the end of January to pay. And so the next report, you will see what we've collected for the very first quarter of the fiscal year. Rental fees for the community center are down, as you can see, and they are, on both the community and the conference center. And that miscellaneous revenue, again, is that $179,000 that we have moved over from the EDCD for project funding to remodel it. If economic development, again, that is the first sales tax that we've received with the fiscal year. The $79,000 is the money that we received as part of the a bond that we had to post. And you see that really big amount over there. That's because we have moved that money from there to the perspective whatever you guys approved for the community center remodel and for the Seneca. And red light cameras, we're tracking pretty good. We're a little bit down from what we were last year, not a whole lot, nothing I would be alarmed about. We're right at, last year, as far as the late fees, we were at 45, we're at 43, nothing that I'm still quite that concerned about. Impound lot, excuse me, 32,000 for the fees. Auctions is 34. We just had another auction which brought in 23,000. So we had, at the same time last year, we were at 53 for auctions. We're at 54, I think it is. Expenditures are trending just like they should be. And that would be it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Just that one question. Now, what would be our balance then in the EDC reserve? We talked about it.
It'd be about 190,000. Then you could add the 79, and then of course, whenever we're done with the at the end of the fiscal year. But we ended the fund. We ended it as of 9/30/19 with 683,000. But we've had that 2 big budget adjustments, and it's taken it down to 190,000.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's all the questions I had. Are there any questions from the? Excuse me. I'm trying to have the citizens go first. Are there any questions for Ms. Wallace on the December budget? Okay, seeing no one, then I asked my question out of line, so I'm sorry. Anybody else on the council have any questions? Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, moving then to agenda item 3, the city manager's report. Ms. Kinsler, if you'll please begin, and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Council. The city manager's report is actually out here on this table, and it's also attached to the website. This is simply a supplemental report. Want to congratulate Public Works. We have asked for training funds and certification funds, and the council have always been supportive of that, and we thank you for that. Public Works maintenance crew leader Rudy Martinez actually passed his test, and he's now a certified playground inspector, relieving us of having to get somebody out here to do that. We've never had a person with this certification before, so we're really proud of him, and Melinda said he's raring to go. He's also studying, though, to become our certified pool operator, and he should have that certification by the beginning of the pool season. And so those training and certification funds are coming in handy, and I think you're going to see them pay off because you won't need the contractors to come in to do that stuff for you. Mayor Riley would like to add the following items. I know some of them were Councilor Hody, but not all of them, so I'm not really sure who to attribute what to. But to the town hall agenda, and so I think what Mayor Riley are looking for is just consensus from the group to add these items.
To the, we have an item that we're going to poll the citizens who are there on Saturday. I hope everybody will come, 8:30 to 12:30, on date, time, and length of the city council meetings. And so Mr. Hody and I were talking the other week about possibly adding a few more questions. I think maybe.
I have them.
Yes, and so
Okay.
it would be to that, not
Okay.
a whole nother agenda. Just
Right,
to add
exactly.
a little bit more polling, just because we have this opportunity.
Right. So what you're asking is the current title for the town hall meeting. It's titled Citizens Input on Dates and Times of City Council Meetings. That's the title right now. And what we would like consensus to add, or to see if you all are interested in these questions, is the length of the council meetings, preferred way to receive communication from the city, whether it's a Lions Roar, e-news, electronic signage, etc. Some questions about audit. Has the citizen ever reported an issue to the audit system? And if they have, did they do it via website, email, or telephone? Whether or not citizens watch council meetings here in person, which is very few, but maybe some of them are watching them on live stream. Do they watch them during the city council meeting or on their own time after the live streaming? Because maybe they didn't have time to watch on live stream. So that's the group of questions that we're looking at. I think this is good, but we usually hit about 100 people. In order to have meaningful data, just another suggestion I'd throw out there is you all did a study right before I got here from St. Mary's that yielded how many responses?
800.
800 responses. So that's another way to get some of these questions answered if you all are amenable to that. So whatever, I'm just throwing it out there for you. But if you would like these added to the town hall agenda under citizens input on dates and times of city council meetings, I can certainly do that. I just need the consensus so I can get that ready for you.
Okay, so I'll open it up. I mean, we were going to get it on 100 people anyway for the date and time, so I just, thought we'd just add. And I don't think it'll take very long. It'd be interesting to see how people's trends. Back in Crystal, 2013, 2014, when we did that at-home survey, we had a 20% response rate, so over 800 people. And at that time, the citizens said their preferred way of communicating or getting communication from the city was the Lions Roar. And I'm just curious to see if that's still the case. So, especially with social media being so prominent now.
We certainly have the contacts to go back to the university, whether it be St. Mary's or UTSA, and get that done again. That's not an issue if you'd like to do it that way and try to get a few more responses. It's up to you.
Just thought I'd, yes, sir, please.
No, none of this is the end all. It's just to kind of give us an idea. That's all.
Right. So the reason I need to know tonight, well, number one, because the town hall meeting is Saturday, but if you want to add these items, the city secretary just reminded me she's going to have to repost the agenda. We're going to have to reword it. We'll amend it, sorry.
Oh, I didn't realize
Oh,
that.
by 8:30 tomorrow morning. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, so.
I just thought we could just add some questions without.
No, because the language right now says
If it's gonna
citizens
be a
input.
rigmarole, yeah, I just thought we could just add just add to the questions. I didn't think we had to repost or anything like that.
It's the way I titled it. I titled it Citizens Input on Dates and Times of City Council Meetings.
Okay, so we couldn't even ask about length then, because we don't have it posted
What do you
properly.
think? Length, dates and times of council meetings? Habib?
Dates and times.
Well, if citizens, you can't keep citizens from inputting whatever they want. So if they wanted to tell you what they thought about length,
Right, but
they
these
could.
are questions that we have on the board that the citizens use their little clickers for.
Oh, okay.
And so they're actually built into the presentation.
Oh, then I think you should amend.
Okay,
Because
if
that
we
way,
add anything.
that way citizens that are interested in length will know that that'll be a discussion item.
Okay, all right, so if we add anything, we'll amend it. Okay, by 8:30. Okay, go ahead and Counselor Hody, go ahead and share that thought.
No, I was just saying, I think we should save it for one of the coffees.
Okay, all right. Counselor Bradshaw.
I don't mind adding it. I think it's a good idea to get more citizen input, and even if we do go back to St. Mary's to do a study, I mean, to compare the information we get from the town hall versus what St. Mary's study shows, the more data, the better.
Okay, very good. Anyone else on this side of the dais?
Just to postpone it to get a thorough thing, so Sandra doesn't have more on her plate tonight. I understand you can, but it can wait, or we can bring it up as an idea and the citizens to be heard and things, because those are important questions. And
Okay.
There's, I think, 45 minutes of citizens to be heard. So whatever the pleasure of the council is, we will do.
Okay. Any other comments on this side of the dais? Okay, I didn't, when I was enthusiastically wanting to add these, I didn't realize we had to amend and all this other stuff. I just always thought, because we're asking questions, why can't we ask a few more? You know, but anyway, sorry about that. So it sounds like to wait, is that what the consensus is, to wait until either a coffee or St. Mary's? Is that what I'm hearing from the consensus of the group?
If you'd like, we can do all. I mean,
Okay.
I agree
All
with
right.
Counselor Bradshaw, the more input, the better. So we could do a coffee, we could do the St. Mary's thing, and then if there's anything at citizens to be heard, that's a lot of input.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Can
All
do
right,
that?
all right, very good, thank you.
Is that? So everybody is in agreement that, because I'll start the study. I'll start engaging people to do the study if that's what you'd like.
Well, and if you could bring some cost, I think we did it
Oh,
through.
absolutely. Yeah, I hope so.
Crystal, I think we did it through the interns or.
Dr. Flores
Yeah,
did
it was
He had a
it was
person
not
on-
very expensive.
Yeah, he had a graduate student he was currently
right.
working with that needed a project, and so he worked closely with her, and she did the.
Okay.
Yeah, so either university, that's exactly what we do. We'd get somebody working on their master's or their doctorate, do it as their project.
Very good.
As their
Okay,
project.
great, thank you.
Master's, actually. Oh, and then, is he still here? Let's see, there he is. James Lee from the Echo has offered to live stream the town hall meeting on Saturday. So I told him sure we would take him up on that. Does anybody have any issues with that at all? Everybody
Live
can.
stream on Facebook? Is that what it is, or?
It will be live streamed through the Echo, correct?
He would be live streaming on 4 cameras, and he has a YouTube channel that we would link it to where you normally have your live stream for this meeting, or your meetings. Crystal is like the person, I'm looking at her forehead. She'll be able to link it to his YouTube page.
Okay, so will we be able to get that information
We'll get
out
it
through e-news?
Did we say that correct, Crystal?
That'll be live streamed. I mean, when they go to the agenda, they'll see that there's a video.
Okay.
Just like all the other meetings.
All
Well,
right.
Sort of.
Sort of,
I mean,
okay.
so I'd have to get with Excella to see if we could do that. Normally, the way it would work would be, he would be live streaming on YouTube, and then once it's done, it'd be turned into an MP4 file, and then we would upload it as a permanent video. But during the live stream, it wouldn't appear like it normally does. Like when you click the live bar, residents would just have to know he's live streaming on his YouTube channel if they would like to see it live.
Right.
After which, then it will appear as a video, as an MP4 file. But it's not going to have, like right now you go and it says live, you click on that, it's not going to take you to his YouTube page. That's specifically for
So what we would do is advertise in the e-news and on our Facebook page and any other social media outlets that we had.
If you can't come and you want to see it live, then you have to go to
Here's this link.
whatever the
Exactly.
YouTube.
Okay.
But then they can later see it at the same place they normally would see the videos.
Okay. All right.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
I think it's no cost, and it's an opportunity to get more citizens to watch and see. So I don't see a downside, but I wanted to run that by you.
No.
Right, no charge.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Lee.
I don't know where he is. I thought I saw him earlier.
Okay, very good. Very good. Yes, Mr. Councilor Bradshaw.
I think Ms. Kinsler already answered my question, but is how do we get that out to the citizens that it will be live streamed? If we send out e-news and different methods with the link, I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good opportunity.
Social media. Okay, we'll do that. We gave you a chart last meeting that Mayor Riley had asked for, and Crystal's going to bring up the chart. I guess you have it with you, Crystal? The beginning? I gave you.
Yes, you did, and I put it on the other USB drive, and then Sandra gave me her USB drive, and so give me a sec.
That's okay. So last meeting, you asked me for the expenses on the former Councilor Benny Martinez case, and one of the numbers was incorrect. And so I just wanted to make sure that I did not have December's expenses on there, and so I wanted to make sure that I corrected that for the record, and I gave accurate, good information. So that's all this is, it's just a correction. As she's pulling that up, I can go on for time.
Okay.
I'm really proud of Mr. Cox and Mr. Milland. That Mr. Cox spearheaded this in particular. They were able to secure an additional 53 certificates of occupancy that were missing where business addresses had no C of Os. That's huge. They got 5 files deep into the computers, and they found on a former employee's desktop, they found on her desktop a bunch of the COs that they were missing. They just went on a hunt. They just said there's just too many legitimate businesses that we know we have, and we cleared out 53 of those on that list that you saw before. So that was huge. So the number up here is the new number. The only number that changed would be in the yellow, which is now $60,210.79. So we'll have that. I'm assuming we can put it on the website to replace it with the old one. And
I'll get it to Sandra
okay.
so that we can update that.
Okay. So anyway, so just wanted to make sure you had accurate, up-to-date information. We started with solar panel installation at City Hall today. PowerFin Solar was out this afternoon to work on the roof of City Hall. According to, I think, Sandra's message, there's a solar string out there that they were troubleshooting, and they were out there to repair it today. Right. A shout out to Chief Joe and Mike Tackard. Saw an email today from a citizen. You know, we talk all the time at our staff meetings about being public servants and why we're here. And this email today really just summed everything up. We have a resident suffering from PTSD issues who's in the military. His mother wrote in talking about the help off time, off hours, and on Saturdays that Chief Joe and Mike Tackard are coming in and giving to try to help one of our residents. And the mother was She's very troubled and she's very scared, but she's very thankful that we have 2 leaders that are willing to come in Saturdays, whenever they need to come help her son. And so that is an example of servant leadership. And so I just want to shout out to them because it was really nice reading that email today because we talk about it at our staff meetings all the time. So thank you, Chief. I know you're here a lot, and reading that email today was really powerful. Thank you. And that concludes the supplemental city manager's report. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Okay. Any questions from our residents in the chambers for Ms. Kinsler's report? Okay. Seeing no one, any other additional questions or comments from our council?
Is it
Yes.
Is it too late to change the order of the town hall meeting to put what we were
charter.
discussing, the charter
Right.
at the end?
I would actually defer to the attorney because what we do at city council meetings is the mayor will just come in and change the order for us. So I'm assuming she can do that on Saturday if we wanted to change one of those items towards the.
That is correct,
Okay.
subject to objection by a member of city council.
Okay.
Okay, so is it the consensus of the council to move the home rule charter at the very end of the?
I think what the city manager is suggesting, you can make that determination
At the time.
At the time.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that
We'll do it.
correct?
Correct, but I don't see, could they make it tonight as well? Just,
Yeah, that's.
it's already posted, so if they could just make, whenever.
Sure, if they want to
Okay.
express their
Opinions.
Opinions, yes.
Right. Okay.
And the reasoning for that is just more time?
The length of time.
Okay.
And it allows that because it'll run into the citizens to be heard.
It'll kind of mess up everything else. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Okay, yes, Councilor Bradshaw.
So I thought that we had decided in the past to put citizens to be heard at the front of the town hall meetings, because last time we had a meeting like this, we ran out of time with all the questions that come up during the agenda items, and there was no citizens to be heard. And I know there's 45 minutes, so that should be enough time, but I'd hate to run out and we have 5 minutes for citizens to be heard and not everybody gets a chance. So I'd like to move citizens to be heard up to the front of the meeting. For Saturday. At least, maybe it won't take 45 minutes worth, but, maybe 20 minutes, whatever, people have pressing issues, and then have our agenda items and citizens be heard at the end, whatever the time's left over.
That's obviously a council decision. The only thing I can assure you of, unless it doesn't happen this year, is that Francine rules with an iron fist. She keeps us on time. She stops items when they have to. But if you all want to reverse it, as your city attorney just said, you could do that. Or you want to change the order around. So.
Okay, so let me hear from the councilors. I believe what meeting you were talking about was just a regular coffee with the mayor?
It might have been, but to
and
me,
that's when we
it's the
ran
same,
out of time.
it's the same concept, whether you have coffee or
But just
town
in the
halls.
experience that we've had with the town hall meetings, we've usually put the citizens to be heard at the end. And sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's Saturday, it's 45 minutes. But may I suggest maybe, 15 minutes at the top and the rest at the bottom or something in order to accommodate your request? I don't know. It's a compromise.
That's kind of what I'm thinking is, some people come and waiting to say something, and then I just know last time there were several people that were upset about not being able to talk at all.
Okay, so if we're going to add another citizens to be heard at the beginning, then we do need to amend the agenda.
Is that right?
Yeah, if we're going to have two. Yeah.
Okay, so, Ms. Bosley.
Mayor and council, I did look back, and last April, the coffee did have the citizens to be heard at the end, and that statement was made, and so July of 19 is when that was changed to the citizens to be heard being before the items.
The coffees?
Yes.
Right. So, again, we come back to the dilemma of having to amend in order to add the citizens be heard, so.
I don't think at the town hall meetings that we've ever had that problem. People, actually, I think last year's ended a little early.
We did, and a little bit earlier. Yeah, we had more time. Okay. Yes, sir.
I mean, as long as Dr. Romeo keeps us on track.
Yes,
then
she will. She's
She
very
has
good
in the
about that.
past.
She really is. Very good about that, very conscientious. Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll keep the agenda as is, but on Saturday, if there's no objection, we'll move the Home Rule Charter to the end of the regular agenda, Town Hall agenda, by consensus. Okay.
And Mayor, you'll just announce it when you,
I will.
right at the beginning? Okay.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right.
That concludes your report.
Very good. I think we've already asked the Citizens Council. All right, so we'll move to citizens to be heard. Agenda item number 4 at 7:30. Are there any citizens that would like to address the council? Please come forward, state your name and where you live. And you have up to 3 minutes to speak, or a little bit longer if you need it. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Council. Benny Martinez, Seneca. My issue has to do with the charter review. When is the public going to be able to make suggested changes? You know, I don't care about hearing the same presentation over and over again. For example, looking at the charter changes, I believe the city attorney needs to work and be hired by the city council. Take it away from the city manager. That was wrong. It should have never happened that way. I believe we need to change it where the department heads are hired by city council. Same with the police chief and the fire chief. And one of the changes that's suggested in the charter review is the city council approves absences. The mayor should be doing that. That's her job. And there's several other changes, but these are the main ones. But we just need to ensure that the revised charter cannot be weaponized like it was used against me. That's got to stop. And the way it stands right now, I will not support the changes to the charter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Good evening and welcome.
Blackmore, Forest Haven. I think the city manager should be picking the people by consensus of the city council to keep out the graft that's happened in the past. And that's all I got to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome.
I just wanted to say that I will not be supporting the revision of the charter either. I'm not happy with the changes that have been made. I don't see where there's been a lot of changes made, and it was a very targeted charter that we used to dismiss people, not including Mr. Martinez, but also citizens. I don't think it was fair to a lot of people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Please come forward.
My name's Tim Scranton. I live on Sunday.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Okay, we redid the bridge,
Yes, sir.
on Evers, and the lights look pretty, but there are no lights anymore. There hasn't been, so I thought that maybe it was Christmas and so they turned them off, but you can drive by there tonight, there's no lights. So is there a reason why this is going on? I mean, we spent a lot of money on this, okay? And when I walk along there on the side towards the park, you can see the grass or weeds or whatever we call it, they're 6 feet tall. They look nasty. I mean, they really do. I don't know, a citizen went out there and put some flowers for the gentleman with the plaque, which for myself, I'm not a military, I thought it was a very nice, sincere thing. Can we not put something permanent? Because the park people picked up and threw it in the trash, 'cause it's gone now. So, I mean, if we're dedicating this to this gentleman who served the United States, however, in what
Marine.
entity. Can we not have something? Why aren't the lights on? I mean, all this, there's a lot of questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
One other one is, I addressed, what is with the street sweeper? We got rid of the Alamo parking lot number 4. He didn't do a very good job. He drove by and just pushed dirt from one side of the street to the other. Okay? But we have this new one that is supposed to be in, and I went back through and I tried to find notes, and the note I found is said that it was January of 2015, listed the streets that were to be cleaned, and there's nothing since then. Okay? I observed last week that the new street sweeper was cleaning the library parking lot, but they're not cleaning the citizen streets. So, I mean, this responsibility, the street where the street meets the gutter, I guess you're going to say it's the residents or the owner or whoever's to clean. I can show you pictures that you can't tell where the curb is, the grass is grown over, there is no sidewalk there. I take it, maybe it is under there. But this stuff is ridiculous. This company that was hired to do the fire things, that was, I spoke with Melinda about it, and it was very terrible. I mean, I had the gentleman tell me things that he shouldn't have responded to me as a citizen. They just up and shut our water off without notifying us, and as he told me, no speak English. Well, then maybe we don't speak a contract, and we find someone else. Okay, if you go around and look at them, there's the one on Forest Haven and it's not Sunlight. The other one, and it's crooked.
Okay. Mr. Scranton, Melinda could probably answer all those questions. Do you all want to, yes. Melinda Mortz, do you want to?
No, she was our animal control.
A long, long time ago. That's when she first started. Now she's our Public Works Director, and I don't know if you want to answer it now or if you want to have
I can answer them real quick.
Okay, very good.
First off, the lights on the bridge are broken. We called the electrician.
All right.
They're under warranty, so
Very
they're coming
good.
out to fix them.
Okay,
First
great.
problem solved. The street sweeper, we had a learning curve on learning how to use it, and so
Okay.
we have Billy Lawson now trained, and he did a beautiful book on his first experience going through the whole city.
Not
And
bad.
so we have that log now and how much we actually picked up. All of the streets, yes, sir.
Oh, I can show you the pictures.
Now they're back. The leaves did fall.
No, this has been that way for months.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, right.
I have the pictures too.
No.
Okay.
So Billy Lawson did go through the whole city, and he picked up.
One person at a time. Let's let Ms. Mortz continue. Yes, thank
Picked
you.
up like 463 tons of debris off our
Wow.
streets. Yeah, it was amazingly successful. And so we're developing that schedule now to go
Okay.
back through, and we'll actually be posting it on the website so you can see when he'll be in your neighborhood so that
Okay.
we can get the cars moved. Because if
That's
the cars
right.
aren't moved, we can't pick up the leaves. And then what was the last thing?
The weeds in the
My conversation with you was November 1st.
Oh, Mr. Scranton, we cannot speak from our chair. We have to speak into the mic.
I'm sorry. The first week of November, I discussed this with Melinda. This is January 21st, and it's still the same way. You can see where the sweeper, whoever he was, and it had to be the Alamo guy, went around. You could see his tracks around the car.
Right, okay.
No, it's so 3 months later, and nothing's been done.
Okay.
And you told me it would throw, you had to order a part.
That's what I was about to say, is the street sweeper was down, and then we had
Yeah.
the holidays. So
Okay.
he's starting back up now.
All right, so what we need to do is not have a dialogue back and forth. Thank you. If you, Mr. Scranton, could call Ms. Moritz and y'all and she'll show you, I'm sorry?
Can't get in, you go to the gate shut.
But you'll need to call her and make an appointment.
Yeah,
So
you
if we'll
can
do
call
that.
and I'll let you in.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if she
We
wants
used
to
be
answer.
invited in.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
It was nice. Thank you.
It's changed. Thank you. All righty. Yes, Mr. Riddle. Right.
Yeah, it's Philip Riddle on Resophie Street. I just wanted to say, I went for my usual morning walk this morning down Rusopi to the end, and then back down over to Echo Hill and down Handsome Lake. The street sweeper was all over those streets. Matter of fact, he came up and down our street, Rusopi, twice. And they went down Handsome Lake and did their street. I think he did an excellent job. I moved my car and he got all the leaves out of the gutter. So that was
Very
it.
good.
Thank you.
Great. And he was on Seneca too. What I heard Ms. Mort say is it's a learning curve. It's a brand new piece of equipment, and we're just learning how to operate it. So thank you for putting that on the website so people can see when their streets are going to be swept in the near future. Okay, anyone else before we move to announcements by Mayor and Council? All right. Councilor Charles.
Just want to say thanks to everyone for coming, and thanks for participating in the discussions, and that's what makes our city a great city.
Okay, very good. Councilor Rodriguez.
I'll echo that. I'm glad everybody is out tonight. Can't wait for Saturday to hear citizens' input as far as the changes to the Home Rule Charter. And kudos to Melinda, to Brandon, and to Chief. Thank you very much.
Councilor Alcacer.
I'm sorry that I'm hobbling tonight. It wasn't a choice, and I'm kind of stuck with it. But I just wanted a reminder that when you're kind to somebody, you're uplifting yourself.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hody.
Good evening to everyone. I hope you're all staying well, but I know that you're not all staying well. I went to the Families Empowered event at the Jubilee Academy. That's a charter school over by the H-E-B Marketplace. It's on Daughtry, which I didn't even know that street existed. I just know where the street is. It's the one that cuts between the 410 access road and Evers. And they have really been good about supporting our events. They were at the Christmas tree lighting. They were at a couple of the Blue Santa events, and I think they plan on being at the Earthwise Living as well. So, and Dr. Rodriguez was there as well. And then also I attended a new city official workshop put on by the TML back on January 10th, and lots of stuff to learn.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Bradshaw.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate the citizen input, especially the people that are new. I like when people get involved in their communities. And I hope that you can all make it on Saturday to the town hall as well. And I would like to make a prediction: Chiefs 34, San Francisco 28.
Okay, very good. Okay, I just have a few things. I regret to inform the citizens of Leon Valley that I'm the subject of an ethics complaint filed by Councilor Donna Charles. A hearing has been set by the Ethics Review Board beginning on Wednesday, February 19th, 2020 at 6 p.m. here in the City Hall chambers. There's 5 alleged complaints against me. I won't go into them, but I want to just share with the citizens that I emphatically deny all claims against me under the ethics law. I again re-urged the Ethics Review Board to consider a settlement conference or mediation to resolve this matter, considering the amount of attorney fees and staff time that would be expended to conduct this hearing. It looks like it may not be resolved in one hearing. The pre-hearing conference could establish the undisputed facts, which could eliminate the need for a long, drawn-out hearing. I also regret to inform you that my neighbor and community activist Mike K. Davis Jr. suddenly died on Saturday, this past Saturday, January 18th. His funeral is February 1st at 11:30 at a church on Southwest Loop 410. But I think many of you all worked with him. He was on the Bond Oversight Committee. He was on the Zoning Commission, and he was on the Home Rule Charter for 2017. So may his soul rest in peace, and our sympathies to his family. All right. Moving then to the consent agenda. Is there any of the councilors who would want to remove any of the consent agenda items 1, 2, or 3 for discussion? Seeing none, may I please have a motion and second to approve?
I make a motion to approve consent agenda 1, 2, and 3 as proposed.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Counselor Charles and a second by Counselor Alcacer to approve consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Then moving then to regular agenda item number 7.1, discussion and possible action on a resolution of the City of Leon Valley, Texas City Council appointing members to the Pool Advisory Committee. Ms. Postley?
Excuse me, Mayor, point of order, please. If we can move item 8 to right after the pool, I would appreciate it, because I regret to inform you that it involves me, and I won't be able to stay for the length of the meeting.
Sure.
And if we can do that.
All right. Any opposition to that? I don't think so. Okay, we'll be glad to do that. Thank you. Ms. Postley, I'm looking for you. Where are you? Okay, very good. And good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Mayor and Council, I don't have a PowerPoint for this, but I did want to bring to you the applications which were in your packet for the Pool Advisory Committee. Right now you have a resolution that created 7 members, a 7-member committee. Mr. Ercon, while you were away, there was a little discussion with the mayor and one counselor that they would possibly like to increase the number of the members of the committee. So with your permission, that is something that they'd like to consider, is maybe appointing more than the allowed, and maybe coming back next meeting to ratify that.
Ratify that?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. Well, here, in the nutshell, we have 7 board members, and we only have 5 openings, because we already have 2 existing board members. And so 2 board members would be, not be able to be appointed. And we, I just hate to turn away volunteers, right?
Well, the problem is you have a resolution
Correct.
that was approved by council, and it limits the number of committee members to 7.
To 7.
That you would have to amend this resolution before you could appoint more than 7.
Correct. So then, Mayor, then that answers that question. We could bring back.
So could we approve 5 tonight and then bring back another agenda item the
Certainly,
next time to increase it and add the other 2?
Certainly, you could bring back a resolution to increase the number of board members, and then after you approve that resolution, you could appoint additional, committee members that equals the number of board members you approve by resolution.
Right. The concern I have is this is such an important committee. They need to start meeting now. And so to delay it another 2 weeks, I'd rather, if it's possible to
Sure, you can
appoint the
tonight,
5 tonight and then deal with the other
the next,
2.
yes,
Okay.
and they could meet and then,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Ratify it next. Okay, great. That's what we were kind of shooting for. So then the other point on here, Mayor and Council, if you noticed in your packet, yes, we would be appointing these people tonight, but the resolution also says that they should be staggered terms, which we've been doing, and that they're 2-year terms. But if you see on there, I've changed the appointment date to be in October. And the reason for that is because the pool season, like if you just appoint in January, that doesn't give the new committee members much time to meet for the next pool season, which they should already be doing right now. So if you do your appointments for this committee in October, that gives, that gives the current committee or the existing summer or pool season committee time to wrap up that season before the new appointments are made, and then the new appointments are made for the new season. That kind of makes sense to where they're not delayed, because right now you only have 2 members that are on this committee. The others have all termed out.
Okay.
That makes sense? So you do have Karen Friedrich, Elaine Valdez, Ashley Acevedo, Vera Ann Sawyer, Carolyn Diaz, Raymond Diaz, and Drew Power that all have shown interest and applied, and they are ready to go. You have Stacy Norris and Jan Todd that are currently serving on this committee. So this would give you a full committee ready to go for your 2020 pool season.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I would just like to suggest that we appoint the first 1, 2, 3, 4. Carolyn Diaz and Raymond Diaz applied on the same day.
Mhm.
Raymond has been the chair of the pool committee, so
Right.
if we appointed him tonight, plus the other 4 above him, and then appointed at the next meeting Drew Power and Carolyn Diaz, that might work, so they could start to work. That's just a suggestion to the council. So.
Does that include the order that they applied?
Yes, that's the order that they applied. Karen Friedrich was in December, then everybody else was in January. But Carolyn and Raymond both applied on the 8th of January. So I would just say, because he's been the chair, it seems more logical that he would continue. Not that Carolyn isn't a value member, she is, but because of the restraint that we have with the 5, we can only appoint 5 tonight. That's what I would suggest. Yes, Councilor Charles.
Yes, Mayor, that's exactly what I would recommend, and I think Carolyn would defer to Raymond. That would be okay with her. So,
anybody else?
All right. That's what I had talked to Ms. Pasolé about. I guess
Okay,
you
yeah, I
had
know, we were
also.
on the same wavelength, that's great. Okay, so with that said,
So,
can we have a
Mr.
motion? Oh, go
Ercon,
ahead.
did you say we could appoint them tonight and ratify at the next meeting?
Well, yes, but if you don't pass the resolution, the appointment of more than 7 total will be ineffective.
Mayor and Council.
So if you want to do that, if you want to appoint people that you're not authorized to appoint tonight, you need to clarify who you're appointing under the resolution and who you're appointing for future ratification.
Okay, I think that's what we just did, but yes, thank you.
And I can
Yes,
bring
ma'am.
back a resolution that adds the 2 and appoints in the same sweep. And I doubt they have a meeting in the next 2 weeks. And even if they do, Mr. Power and Ms. Diaz can
Can still
certainly go.
Mhm.
Anybody can go. They're public meetings. So.
And we could possibly place that on the consent agenda.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. So, what's the pleasure
We
of
need
the
to make a
council?
motion.
Yes, we sure do.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint the first 5 in applicants to the Pool Advisory Committee in the order that they applied. Is that? I don't have the list of the names,
Okay.
that's why.
With Mr. Diaz being the
Mr.
5th.
Diaz being,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Right.
I second it.
All right. And what about the other 2 appointments? Do we need to have that within the same motion?
You can. Someone could do an amendment to ask that the other 2 be appointed subject to amendment to the resolution.
All right, so have a,
So-
go ahead.
Do I need to withdraw my motion or redo it?
No, someone
vote
can
on
make
it.
an amendment to that
Okay.
motion.
All right, let's do
Appointing
that.
the second 2, subject to approval of the
Okay, very good.
resolution increasing the number of committee members.
Right, so we have a motion by Councilor Bradshaw and a second by Councilor Charles to appoint Karen Friedrich, Elaine Valdez, Ashley Acevedo, Ann Sawyer, and Raymond Diaz to the Pool Advisory Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Now, the second amended motion is,
Just what Mr. Ercon said, to appoint the other 2,
Subject to approval of a resolution increasing the number of board members.
in the next meeting.
right?
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Alcazar and a second by Councilor Bradshaw to appoint Carolyn Diaz and Drew Power as an amendment in order to increase the number of board members at the next meeting. Is that
Let's
Okay, very good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Thank you to all of the volunteers for the Pool Advisory Committee. We really appreciate the response and the enthusiasm to try to get a good pool season this year. So thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pasolay. All right, so moving then to, as per the request from Councilor Alcacer, we'll move agenda 7.9 to 7.2. Discussion and possible action to order a special meeting for the purpose of permitting Donna Charles, Council Place 1, and Monica Alcacer, Council Place 3, the opportunity to present a response to the reasons for recall specified in the recall petitions as certified and reported to City Council by the City Secretary on January 7th, 2020. Ms. Pasolay, if you'll...
Mayor.
Say, point of order.
Yes. That was number 8. We moved number 8.
You read number 9.
I read number 9.
I think she
Oh, I
meant
thought...
9.
I'm sorry, I thought you wanted number... Oh, I'm sorry. I
can
did,
do
you
9
know,
also, but-
I did that, you know what? I did 8 and then I started reading 9. My apologies. You're right. I was wrong about that.
Doing?
So it's the election.
We're
So-
doing 8?
So cancel what I just read. We're going to 8. Yeah, I had here moved to 7.2 and I started reading the wrong one. All right. We have been meeting since 4 o'clock this afternoon. I think I'm, yes. Yes, ma'am.
May I suggest that this be divided into 2? Because there's one about elections and then one about the recall. And on the elections, all the counselors sign that we are called for the election. So can this be separated as 2 different topics?
You're going to sign for both I mean, it's one resolution, and I need signatures for all, from everybody for the one resolution calling both elections. It's one resolution for both.
Okay.
And everybody signs those all at the same time in the English and the Spanish version. So we'll do that. We'll
That
do
didn't
that.
appear like that in my packet.
It's in the one resolution.
Sandra, maybe it would help if you explain the research you did on, because you thought you would need to call separate elections as well.
Okay.
And then you got legal counsel opinion. I don't know.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and read the?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me
Go
do that
ahead.
while you prepare your PowerPoint. Discussion and possible action on a resolution of the City Council of the City of Leon Valley ordering and establishing procedures for a general election in the City of Leon Valley, Texas, to elect 3 council members, placed 2, 4 in the office of the mayor by the qualified voters of the City of Leon Valley, and a special election to be held on the question to recall and remove Donna Charles, Council Place 1, and Monica Alcacer, Council Place 3, authorizing the city manager to sign a joint election agreement with the Bexar County Elections Administrator for the conduct of said elections and providing details relating to the conduct of holding the election, authorizing the use of the Leon Valley City Council chambers in the Leon Valley Conference Center on the 2nd day of May 2020 for Election Day voting, and the use of the Leon Valley Conference Center located at 6421 Evers Road, Leon Valley, Texas 78238 for early voting April 20th, 2020 through April 28th, 2020. All right, Ms. Pasolay, if you'll continue.
Did
Thank
somebody
you.
want to read that in Spanish?
Yes.
Well,
Ms. Rodriguez, would you
think
like to
somebody
read it in Spanish?
volunteered.
I'd ask her if she'd like.
volunteered.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, una resolución del Consejo Municipal de la Ciudad de Leon Valley que ordena y establece los procedimientos para una elección general en la ciudad de Leon Valley, Texas, para que los votantes habilitados de la ciudad de Leon Valley elijan 3 miembros del Consejo, posiciones 2, 4 y para el cargo de alcalde, y una elección especial a celebrarse sobre la pregunta de la destitución y remoción de Donna Charles, concejal de la posición 1, y de Mónica Alcacer, concejal de la posición 3. Autoriza a la administradora de la ciudad a firmar un convenio de elección conjunta con el administrador de elecciones del condado de Bexar para la celebración de dichas elecciones y proporciona detalles relativos a la celebración de la elección. Autoriza el uso de las cámaras del Consejo Municipal de Leon Valley y del Centro de Conferencias de Leon Valley el día 2 de mayo de 2020 para la votación el día de elección y el uso del centro de conferencias de Leon Valley, ubicado en 6421 Evers Road, Leon Valley, Texas, 78238, para la votación anticipada del 20 de abril de 2020 al 28 de abril de 2020, inclusive. Then, okay. Sandra,
Thank
pásale.
you. Appreciate it.
Just so y'all know, we are required to do that
I wasn't ready for
in
that one.
English and in Spanish because those are our two languages here. And I would have done that in Spanish, but I didn't want to show her up.
Oh, that's pretty good. Show her up.
No, not happening. Okay, so as far as this resolution, now we do have another election to call later with the charter, and they all can be done in one resolution, or they can all be done separately. You can call an election, and then you can cancel an election. We have to call an election by certain dates. You can cancel it at any point before the election. Well, not at any point. There's a deadline, but it's much further down the line. We did need to call these elections just because we're going to have to anyway, and then they can cancel. So if there's any changes that need to be made, you can certainly make them in your motion. Does that answer your question
Yes,
at all? Okay. All right, so I'm going to move forward. This resolution does call the general election to order, which is to elect 3 members of council, which is including the place for 2, 4, and the place for the office of mayor, as well as a recall election for the purpose of submitting to qualified voters of the city for the adoption or rejection to the question with respect to each individual whose removal is sought to be submitted for the vote of citizens shall blank be removed from the office of blank by recall, yes or no. Sorry for that language, but this is the first time I've ever had to say that in 16 years. The purpose of this resolution is to designate Jackie Callanan, as always, thank God, from Bexar County Elections as our elections administrator. She will supply the staff as the judges. They also have the voting machines, which are wonderful. We've all experienced that in November. They provide the notice in the newspaper. They do all the training, all that stuff. Election day, early voting, that's all going to be, we have 5 poll sites. Remember, this time is going to be a little bit different. Citizens can vote at any poll site in the county. As long as you're a Bexar County voter, you can vote at any poll site, election day and early voting, okay? So early voting this year for early voting and election day is going to be here and the conference center, okay?
Oh, both.
So,
okay.
yeah. And then I'm not sure the other location. No, John Marshall and
Usually Leon Valley Elementary.
And then there's a 5th, but I don't know it yet. They're waiting to see what entities drop out, who's going to cancel. And of course, election day is May 2nd, 2020. The publication is going to be in the regular papers. Voting opportunities are ballot by mail, curbside, early voting, and election day voting. Of course, the city always saves money when they do the joint election, and I'm not sure how having so much on one ballot, again, this is a first, so we'll see how that goes, but again, it's going to depend on how many entities drop out. That is the end of that presentation. Do you have any questions?
Okay, so
I
I
know
think
it's a
we
lot.
start with the citizens first and then the council second. So are there any questions from the citizens or guests in our chambers this evening on this agenda item 7.8? Good evening and welcome. Please state your name and where you live.
Hi, my name is Josh Stevens, Forest Oaks, Canterfield. So we're kind of anticipating, obviously this is a big moment for the 1,600 or the 800 people that signed their signatures. So We're hoping that, it already seems like y'all are trying to divide up the election, which is a little bit concerning. But we're hoping that we can avoid having to take this to court, because it's like a slam dunk win for us. It's just going to make the city, it's going to cost the city a lot of money to fight a lawsuit. So we're hoping, as per our charter and per Texas law, that these measures just get approved to go on the ballot like they should be. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
My name is Blackmore, I live in Forest Haven. Y'all have already cost the city a lot of money. It's just damn pathetic what's going on in this city. Absolutely. Certain people have played this things like the city's spending all this money, but it's a certain group of people that's causing the city to spend a lot of money.
Excuse me, Mr. Blackmore, we need to stay on topic, and the topic is the election. Thank you.
I gotta say right now.
All righty. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one else in the chambers, I'll open it up for discussion from our counselors.
Point of order. Mayor,
Okay, yes.
Could you remind Mr. Blackmore to watch his language as he's leaving the chambers?
Okay. He cussed at some citizen at the back. Okay. All right. I believe that this is not the first time that this has happened. So at the next meeting, I'm going to request that Mr. Blackmore please sit in the foyer. And if he wants to come in and participate, he can do that. I think let's, for the next meeting, and then hopefully that won't continue. So thank you. Do I need to have a ruling or anything like that? That's from the chair.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
unless
it's
the chair,
just,
unless
it's the
there's an
chair.
objection.
There's
from
an
the rest
objection,
of
but we gotta stop this. So, okay.
I have a question
Yes,
about that.
Mhm.
Are we also going to ask those to sit in the foyer who come to the dais and threaten, make veiled threats to the rest of the, are we going to ask them to sit in the foyer?
If I hear them make a veil threat, sure, but I haven't heard anybody tonight make a veil
How
threat.
about out and out threats?
Did someone make an out-and-out threat tonight?
I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay,
But
yeah.
I think the same goes for them too.
Sure, but foul language is totally inappropriate, and we know that. That's just not acceptable. All right, and that's something that I didn't hear as he went out, so that's what I was saying about I can't hear everything and see everything. So, okay. So we're back over here to the council on agenda item number 8, 7.8. Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we pass, that we approve item 7.8 as written.
Okay. And we need a second.
So, Mr. Erkan, per our charter, it says that we must add these to the ballot. Is that correct?
That is
For the
correct.
election?
That's correct.
So if I don't get a second, then all of the council members are in violation of the charter. Is that correct?
No.
How does that work if we can't get this added to the ballot, but the council refuses to do their jobs?
It's not a violation of the charter not to second a motion. You're right, you have a obligation to have the election.
Okay.
But it's not if you'll show me what charter provision you believe is being violated by a counselor not seconding a motion, I'll be glad to look at it.
I would say we are violating the charter by not adding this item to to not have the election, to not add it to the ballot
But I
for the
don't
charter.
believe there's any obligation to second a motion in the
Okay.
charter. It's a very peculiar situation, and I'm not sure what the solution is. But I'm just trying to answer your question.
I understand. I'm not, I guess.
And I would urge someone to second your motion just to be in compliance with the charter, but I don't think, I just want to be clear that I don't think the failure to do so.
Right,
puts
that
anybody
in itself, I understand, is not a charter violation.
Yes, sir.
That's what you're saying, I agree.
Okay. If there's not a second,
Then the motion fails.
I understand that, but there's no election?
Is this the last day you have? No? All right, well,
No,
at
sir.
this point, I would recommend continuing this item over to the next agenda.
I would like to discuss this further. Why can I not get a second to follow the charter? Why is everybody, I understand that there is a team at work here of council members that are all on one side, and I'm the lone council member on the other side. But I just find it very disheartening that you've continue to refuse to listen to the voice of the citizens of the city.
Okay. Ms. Charles, do you have something to add?
I would agree with calling the general election, but may I debate each of the allegation points prior to making a decision whether to second it or not?
Well, we have to have a motion and a second, and then we have discussion. So if we don't have a second, we can't have discussion. That's my...
Under Robert's rules, that is
Yes.
correct, Mayor.
Mhm. So we need a second in order to have discussion.
May I be excused? I think this is done and over for now.
Okay. So at approximately 8:10, Ms. Alcacer leaves. Okay.
Mayor and Council, I just want to make sure, Ms. Alcacer, were you going to want to have any input on the date for the hearing on the next item?
I don't think we have to have a date, but no,
Okay. Okay.
I'm not able to anymore today. That can be, isn't mandatory today either.
Okay. So we have a motion to adopt the agenda item 7.8 as presented. It dies for a lack of a second, and as per the city attorney's recommendation, we just move this to the next agenda.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
And just to answer the question on the date of when we can call, the last day to call this election is February 14th.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just had one other question. You consulted with Ms. Callahan on how to present this agenda item, is that correct? And to do one resolution for two elections, was that correct?
No, Attorney Zek.
Attorney Zek
Correct.
helped you set this up. Okay.
Correct.
So in other words,
Yes, and we've done this before.
Yeah.
For
Okay, just
special
wanted to
elections
clarify
and
that.
general elections.
Okay.
To have a general election and a special on the same ballot, we've done before.
Definitely.
So that's not unusual.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, then we move then to regular agenda 7.2, discussion and possible action on resolution adopting the 2020 Leon Valley Park Recreation Trails and Open Space Master Plan. And we have Melinda Moritz here to present this evening, our Public Works Director. I just had a question before you begin. I was reading the packet and it said public hearing, but it didn't say public hearing on the agenda. Do we need a public hearing on this?
No, we had one at the
we had one.
December.
That's what I thought. So but it was still on the agenda packet. And I was confused. So, okay, thank you. I'll take that off then. All right, if you'll continue, and thank you for being here.
There was only one minor change, but I
Okay.
did have this put at y'all's places. It's just to let you know
Yeah.
what the comments were from the really good participation I thought we had from placing it on the website and having a little survey on there. So the only actual change that went to the master plan itself was to add some verbiage, change Hebner Creek Greenway verbiage to read publicly owned land, as some of the portions of the creek are privately owned. There's 2 property owners over there that actually have land that goes down into Hebner Creek, and so they just wanted to make sure it was clear that we were not going to build on private property.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
The
right.
rest of them were just suggestions or support for the plan, and most of the suggestions were already in the plan. They just didn't read it far enough.
I
So
see.
just wanted y'all to know.
And-
Other than that, there were no other changes.
And is this on the website?
No, it just made it for y'all.
Just made it for us, but we can put it on the website?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. All right, so we won't have a formal presentation tonight. Are there any questions, comments from our citizens here this evening on the open Leon Valley Parks, Recreation Trails, and Open Space Master Plan? We presented it in December, and this is our final presentation. And we did have a public hearing, I remembered that. All right. All right. Any questions or comments from our counselors on this particular agenda item? Yes, Counselor Hody.
Yeah, the Parks Commission did an excellent job on this. It's great.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Moritz. Do appreciate it. All right. So with that said, may I have a motion, if there's no further discussion, adopting this resolution?
I make a motion to adopt the resolution of the Leon Valley Parks, Recreation Trails, and Open Space Master Plan.
And I'll second it.
All right. I have a motion by Counselor Charles and a second by Counselor Hody to approve the resolution adopting the 2020 Leon Valley Park, Recreation Trails, and Open Space Master Plan. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Then moving, yes, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thank the Park Commission for their hard work from us. Thank you. Moving then to agenda item 7.3, Ms. Pasolé, if you'll please read that agenda item.
May I?
Yes.
Respectfully ask, we have 3 potential code amendment items coming up, and then after those items, we have 2 specific use permits which involve a business. So I'd respectfully ask to move the SUPs up so we can get our applicant home, and then we can talk about the code amendments.
Okay, so you'd like to move 7.6 and 7.7 before 7.3, 4, and 5?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your request? Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. Any objection to, any objections on the council? Okay. Then Ms. Pasolé, if you'll please read agenda item 7.6, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leon Valley, Texas, City Council granting a specific use permit for outside storage at 5415 Bandera Road, providing repealer, severability, and savings clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Good
you, Mayor
evening
and
and
Council.
welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is the first of 2 specific use permit requests this evening for the West Loop Business Center. It's at 5415 Bandera Road. Got a map here. It's just right behind HEB. Representative of the owner is here this evening, Mr. Bobby Anderson, and he's available to answer any questions as well. So they're requesting 2 specific use, well, actually several. One of the specific use permits is for outside storage. That's going to be a separate item in the next one. And then they're requesting 3 continuous specific use permits. Now, it's a new specific use type of specific use permit for was for the zoning commission. I think it's probably a new one for everybody up on council. They're requesting 3 continuous specific use permits at this property, one for manufacturing, another for assembly packaging, and a third for entertainment indoor. So I'm just going to give a little bit of background on the property. It's about 11 acres. It's got 7 separate buildings, about 170,000 square feet. It's a large facility. They have 50 separate lease spaces. Property was constructed back in the 80s, primarily for office and warehouse use. That's what the market was back then. Now, the market's changed, so it's become a pretty diverse business center. They've got all sorts of things out there. They still have some office and warehouse, but they have a lot of different stuff. They have contractors out there. They have some churches, dance studios, and they're getting more and more requests for more manufacturing, assembly, packaging types of uses. As you remember, we had the George Morehouse request last year. That was assembly packaging. Great business. Unfortunately, the code just requires assembly packaging, and so they're anticipating more of this. Specific use permit is, that's something that's allowed by the code. In our permitted use chart, it says something's allowed by right, or it says something's not allowed at all, or it says something can be permitted with an SUP. And SUP just basically acknowledges, this use probably isn't entirely incompatible, but it may have a few things about it that might need to be looked at a closer level, particularly impact things like traffic, noise, or parking, things like that. So that's kind of the best way that our code has right now to make sure everything is compatible with one another. So we've done lots of specific use permits. Question is, okay, what's different about a specific use permit versus a continuous specific use permit? A specific use permit always is addressing a site, is a use which is imminent. Means the property owner or agent knows it's going to come. They want to put it in this particular space. So a specific use permit typically always has a site plan, and it's always limited to one specific space or one specific building. What a continuous SUP is mainly made for like multi-use facilities. It's not very common, but we use it here in Leon Valley. And what that does is that anticipates one or more uses that maybe isn't imminently planned, but a landowner anticipates having in the next 6 months. And so they want to eliminate that uncertainty for their tenant and just get permission and ask the zoning commission and council, hey, do you have an issue with this use or not? If not, may we have permission to do it anywhere in our facility and maybe have it in more than one place. So that's the utility of a continuous SUP. It gives the property owner permission to do that anywhere in their facility, and maybe in more proliferation than just one space. So that's, they're anticipating lots of different uses, continuing to have a mixture of uses in their facility. So they've identified these 3 different uses: manufacturing, assembly, packaging, and entertainment, as things they want to sort of streamline for the future. In looking at those 3 uses, the main thing staff looked at, again, we always look at surrounding uses, compatibility, the uses to the west, HEB, to the north you have a couple of churches. You also have McCoy's and Intertech to the south. Those are more industrial. So you've got retail, assembly, industrial. It's a pretty diverse area. You have a diversity of zoning. You have, let me go back here. You've got, a mix of B2, a mix of B3, and a mix of industrial in the area. So pretty diverse zoning as well. So in terms of surrounding uses, staff does not have any concerns with this particular request at all. Also, public areas. Let me see, is this? Yeah. So in terms of compatibility with surrounding uses, like I said, staff doesn't have any concerns. And in terms of, I don't know if this is the right presentation, Crystal. Yep, this is actually the one for outside storage. I'm sorry.
Well, it said 7.6, so this is 7.6.
It is outside storage. And the next one
Okay,
is
I'm sorry,
specific.
I got ahead of myself. I was thinking they were going to be in different order. So I gave you guys a big heads up on the next item. So we can skip right through the logic of continuous SUPs. We had them in the opposite order at Zoning Commission, so I just have it in my head. So my apologies. So outside storage. So again, with outside storage, what are the big things that we look at when you think about something like that? Okay, what's going on around the site? There you go. So like I said, surrounding uses, McCoy's, they have lots of outside storage. You drive by, they've got lumber, they have all sorts of things outside. And even HEB, you drive back behind HEB, what do they have outside? They have shopping carts, they have pallets, they have some products out there. So there's definitely outside storage that's going on in this area. So what they're asking for is not out of character with things that are going on. There is the church. They don't really have any outside storage, but in terms of the public areas, that's really the biggest thing is what would potentially be visible from a public area rather than, say, a surrounding private property. So staff believes that although this area is primarily commercial, I think we need to balance out the ability to have some sort of types of commercial, uses like outside storage. So in keeping in mind, being, looking out for the public areas and the public aesthetic, staff doesn't have any concerns with outside storage provided there are certain conditions that are met. And really their main reason for requesting outside storage is really to accomplish two things. One, be able to store vehicles outside temporarily, and also be able to store things outside that are associated with like the shipping and wholesaling of products. So with those being the only two things that they're wanting to do, with these particular conditions, staff recommends this, and the Zoning Commission also considered this and recommended approval subject to these conditions. So I'll go ahead and go through them. One, outside storage should be limited to employee and business vehicles and materials and byproducts related to the shipping and warehousing of goods, such as pallets and empty boxes. Two, vehicle storage shall not be permanent. So the vehicles that are allowed to be there, you can't just permanently store a vehicle outside. They shall be primarily not permanent, but primarily transient, with the exception of nights and weekends, like kind of non-business hours when they can keep a vehicle outside, keep a contractor car outside, maybe have some of the employee vehicles outside temporarily. But they still need to be coming and going, not there for weeks, just a day or so or overnight. And then lastly, regarding materials and things outside, materials should be stored in a manner in which they're not visible from a public street. So, that's a large facility. You saw there's lots of buildings, lots of little areas back there. So they can keep stuff outside. There's, backs of buildings where loading docks and things are. So they can keep stuff outside just as long as you can't see it from the street or a public area. Materials and byproducts cannot be kept outside during non-business hours, which means they basically have to bring everything inside before the end of the night. They can throw it outside for a little while, but bring everything inside. And then lastly, you can't keep any hazardous materials outside. So those are the conditions that the Zoning Commission reviewed as well, and they recommended unanimously in favor of council approving this request subject to these conditions. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, very good.
Ma'am.
So we need to start with our citizens. Are there any questions or comments on agenda item 7.6 as presented? Outside storage. All right, we have Mr. Anderson here. Do you have anything to add to your request? I want to give you an opportunity as well. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you.
You bet.
So like Brandon said, the main purpose of this is in the B3 zone, we cannot have vehicles outside overnight. So we have just over 45 tenants, and so obviously at some point we're going to have, utility vehicles, plumbers, electricians, they need a place to park their vehicles overnight, and also employees from time to time will need a place to park their vehicle after hours. And so that's the main purpose of this, is to be able to not get in trouble with the city if a vehicle is parked at 7 p.m. or midnight or something like that. So we're not going to allow vehicles to be stored permanently. We're not allowing any of that. It's just so that we're in compliance with the B3 zoning.
Okay, and this is a permit for the whole complex, your 45
complex. Yeah, because right
tenants.
now, technically, at midnight, there should not be one car in that entire property. And, and we have 45 tenants that we can't regulate that. So
Certainly.
this is a good way to be able to have vehicles parked overnight if necessary. Okay. And then outside storage, we're only doing that for the ability for tenants to be able to put pallets or boxes temporarily outside. All the tenants have bay doors, 10 by 10 dock doors or drive-in garage doors, and so they're always moving stuff in and out throughout the day. Okay. And technically right now, if they put something outside, they're in violation of the B3 zoning code. And so the purpose of this is to be able to have vehicles, or not vehicles, but pallets to be stored temporarily during business hours.
Okay.
So that if the city drives by, they're not, breaking the law.
Okay. So, yeah. And I don't know if this is quite, well, let's see, we didn't have any other, does this affect anybody else's, any 45 tenants? If they had an SUP, does this affect it at all? No. I mean, because I know we've.
Entire center,
This
yeah.
this is the incentive, and so
Entire
if
center.
a business has their own SUP, that remains the same, no matter, doesn't impact this.
Correct, like we
Okay,
have
I
a
just-
doggy
I didn't
daycare.
think-
The doggy daycare, they have
Yeah.
an SUP, so that's okay.
Right, that's gonna.
George
okay.
Morehouse had an
I
SUP.
figured, yeah,
The
that's
K&M
right.
Cycle had an SUP, so.
So those all
this
stay.
This covers the
It's
entire
a
property.
blanket thing.
So that if we get a
Okay.
new tenant and they have a lot of pallets, they have the ability to put pallets outside. If they have a van that's a plumbing van, they have the ability to park it overnight.
I think this is the first time I've heard of us doing this. I don't remember us doing this before, so that's why I was asking in the past. A blanket SUP, it's usually
It's called a continuous
specific
SUP.
to the business, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I was wondering. Okay. Any other questions, comments for either Mr. Milan or Mr. Anderson? Okay. Seeing none, then Mr. Anderson, this is our first read, and we will put it on the agenda for next meeting, February 3rd, and have a motion and a second to approve. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we've got you coming back on number 7, which is something similar, and I think Mr. Milan can probably make this real short.
I was just going to say, who can tell me what a continuous SUP is?
Yeah, I just
Winner.
we just learned, or at least I did.
Ongoing.
All right, so this is for. Go ahead,
Yes, ma'am.
manufacturing.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and skip right to the end here where we get into the analysis, because I already talked about what specific use permits are and how they're different. There we go. See if I can keep going. Okay, so I mentioned they're asking for 3 continuous SUPs. The code doesn't allow you to give out 1 continuous SUP for several things. It literally says you have to give individual ones, and even goes as far to say you have to have separate public hearings for each one. So we have to have 3 public hearings tonight. So I want to make sure not to forget to give you that direction, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And we had to send out 3 separate public
there
notices
was a public
as well.
hearing up there too. Wow.
And so the 3 different, like I said, the 3 different continuous SUPs that they're requesting are manufacturing, assembly packaging, and entertainment indoor. And so, you know, looking at this request, really the 3 things that we're looking at here, we're looking at surrounding uses, we're looking at noise, actually 4 things. We're looking at surrounding uses, noise, parking, and traffic impact. So first, I talked about the area is really diverse. You know, we've got churches, we have, you know, large-scale suburban retail, we have some manufacturing.
Right, I just saw that. I apologize. Do we need to go back to 7-6? We'll have a public hearing on this one, 7-7, but do we need to go back for 7?
Yes, we do need.
7.6 to have a public
Yeah.
hearing on the outside storage?
Yes.
Let him do the presentations and do all 3 of them simultaneously.
Okay, let's do it that way. Wonderful. And if you'll
Yes, ma'am.
continue, we'll do the public hearing for all 3 of them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So, like I said, the area is diverse. So, you know, staff doesn't have any concerns with manufacturing, entertainment, indoor, or assembly packaging at this location. Also, you know, the area is within the commercial industrial overlay. So the name says it all with that type of overlay. This, from a policy perspective, this is an area where the city, I think, has said we anticipate and support commercial industrial uses in this area. Manufacturing and assembly packaging are certainly commercial industrial uses.
Excuse me?
Noise, again, we've talked to. Yeah.
Excuse me, Ms. Posley has a question.
Sorry, we just kind of rolled into the next item, but I didn't read the caption to the ordinance, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we haven't got to the public hearings yet.
No, sir, but.
No, but she didn't even read 7.7.
Correct.
Oh, you know what? Because Mr. Milan came up and just said,
Kept talking.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
so if you'll please read 7.7 ordinance. Thank you. This has been one of those nights, I tell you. Okay, go ahead.
An ordinance of the City of Leon Valley, Texas, City Council granting a continuous specific use permit for assembly, packing, manufacturing, and entertainment indoor use at 5415 Bandera Road, providing for repealer, severability, and savings clauses, and providing for an effective date. And that's the last one I have to read tonight.
Okay, there you go. So,
All right.
thank you. And Mr.
Sorry
Milan,
for
if you'll
rolling
continue.
right into it. Noise, our ordinance, our city code has noise ordinances, so we don't need to worry about putting anything, in my opinion, we don't need to worry about putting anything into an ordinance addressing noise because we already have codes that regulate that. Noise has to be kept to decibels during the day and also at night, and so that's already taken care of. Parking, actually, I've been working with the applicant for several months now regarding looking at parking for the facility. The facility was designed for office and warehouse. Those are pretty low parking users. They've been developing lots of different uses or adding lots of different diverse uses. So that was something I've talked with Mr. Anderson about, and he did a lot of work on his end to provide staff with numbers for current tenants. So he and I have kind of a working parking plan. It's not anything that has to be approved by council. It's just more of a working document that we're always looking at when he adds new tenants. So I don't have any concerns with parking. And the code also has requirements that say we can't issue any certificates of occupancy if parking is not accounted for. So there's other mechanisms in there that we don't need to worry about building into an SUP. Same goes for traffic impact. They provided us kind of with a preliminary traffic impact analysis, gave it to the city engineer to look at. He definitely didn't have any concerns for the manufacturing or the assembly packaging uses. His only concern was entertainment indoor. Those are high parking users. Had just, advised us that we may need to look at that at a higher level when we get to certificate of occupancy. If we had a whole place full of entertainment indoor uses, that could be a lot of cars. But again, the code provides the city the ability to ask for more traffic impact analysis at the time of certificate of occupancy. So the city isn't forfeiting anything through this SUP by not requiring more traffic impact analysis. That's the way the process is set up. We can always analyze that at all steps in the process. So because of that, I don't have any concerns with the entertainment indoor, and our city engineer didn't either. We can always look at that if we get 15 entertainment indoor uses there. With that, staff recommends approval. The Zoning Commission considered this request at their last meeting last Tuesday, and they recommended approval on the condition that all three of the uses they're asking for be conducted entirely indoors. So that's the only condition. Okay. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Very good. Since we go to the citizens first, why don't I go ahead and open up the public hearing?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Open up the public hearing. That's what I was going to do. On agenda item 7.6, which is the outside storage permit, and agenda item 7.7.
Do each one separately.
Each one separately?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's do a public hearing on the outside storage on agenda 7.6. Do I have any citizens that would like to comment?
Tell the time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I always, is that 8:36? We'll open it up at 8:36. Thank you. I always do that. I forgot. Okay. Ms. Joseph, we have someone who'd like to comment.
Yes, Lynn Joseph. I just had a question. I think I missed the explanation on what type of manufacturing is going on there.
Type of manufacturing, okay.
I don't want to speak for the applicant, but it's not really, in this situation, it's not really about what kind of manufacturing is going on. It's more about capturing all manufacturing uses that could potentially work there. We get, on a property just to the east, we're considering an SUP for manufacturing bottles. Well, what this does is it just allows for manufacturing in general. We look at our code and be like, okay, bottle, filling of bottles up with air to make, bottles or big water bottles, that's just technically manufacturing. So this would cover all those types of manufacturing uses, anything that falls into manufacturing. So there isn't one type of business that's anticipated here. It's multiple types of businesses that would be classified by the code as manufacturing.
What other type of manufacturing besides the bottle is there?
So one example is right now we're working with a group that they manufacture stereo speakers, and so they're going to take raw materials and create the speakers, and so right now that's a manufacturer of stereo speakers.
Okay. And did I hear you say that you have a summary of all your 45 tenants and what they do? Yeah. Okay. Very good. Brandon has that. Okay. All right. Sure. Okay. Come on up.
And the reason why we're doing this too is because we already have a lot of type of users that are permitted by right that maybe fall underneath this category. For example, we have a sign shop. We have a shutters and blinds company that uses raw materials and wood. That's permitted by right. We had a cabinet maker in the past. That's permitted by right. Also permitted by right is catering facility, upholstery shop, bakery, like I said, sign shop, cabinet or carpenter. And then as far as like assembly and packaging, we have tenants like screen printing companies that are, packaging shirts and things like that. So we already have a lot of tenants that are permitted by right to be able to be in the center. What we run into is a lot of times, if they're not permitted by right on the table, then they fall under this broad category, which means they cannot be in the center with an SUP. And a lot of these tenants are very small mom and pops, and they don't want to wait like 2 to 3 months to go through the process. They just move on to go somewhere else. So I'd say 90% of our tenants are small mom and pop tenants. And so when they call me, they usually want a space within less than a month. I mean, they see a space, they like it, they want it. And so the delay of getting an SUP for each and every space affects our ability to lease the center as well.
Okay. But those comments pertain to assembly and packaging,
and
right?
manufacturing.
And manufacturing, which will be our next public hearing. So just wanted to make sure we keep it to outside storage right now. That was the public hearing on number 7.6. Just, that's okay. It's since we've kind of blended it and talked about it, it's kind of hard to distinguish it. Anyway, anything else on outside storage? I just wanted your comments to be reflective of 7.7 rather than 7.6. All right. Seeing no one else to make a comment on outside storage on 7.6, we'll close the public hearing at 8:40 and ask if there's any other questions or comments from the council to Mr. Anderson or to Mr. Milan on outside storage. Yes, Councilor Rodriguez.
Mr. Anderson, I had a question. You said right now, at present, you have 45 tenants, give or take?
Give or take, yes.
So how much space do you have left for
right now
tenants to fill?
Tenants, right now we have right about 10 to 11,000 square feet. So we have one that's 6,900 square feet and we have one that's 3,000 square feet. But with the center this big, like for example, we have a tenant that's leaving at the end of the month, that's 1,500 square feet. We have a potential tenant for the 3,000. We have another tenant that's struggling that may not make it. And so with a property this size, there's always fluctuation, always. So.
Okay.
But right now we're sitting at about 92% leased.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right. So we've closed that public hearing and we'll move then to, we're going to do 2 more public hearings on agenda 7.7. One is going to be, I'll open the public hearing at 8:41 on continuous specific use permit for assembly and packaging and manufacturing. Correct? That's one, and then entertainment is the other one. Any comments on that public hearing? And I know Mr. Anderson had already communicated on that issue, so thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Okay. Then we'll close the public hearing at 8:42 and ask on the assembly and packaging and manufacturing and ask if the council has any additional questions or comments on the continuous specific use permit. Okay. Then we'll open up the public hearing on the continuous specific use permit for entertainment indoor use at 5415 Bandera Road at 8:42. Are there any comments or questions on this public hearing? All right. Seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing at 8:42 as well and ask the council if you have any questions, comments on this particular continuous specific use permit for entertainment indoor use. Okay. All right, Mr. Anderson, as we were saying before, both 7.6 and 7.7 will be on the next agenda for the second read. No action can be taken tonight. Okay? Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you, council, and thank you, citizens, for your input. We will then move back to 7.3. Ms. Pasolé? You thought you were finished, but you're not.
There
you get to
actually
read.
is not an ordinance attached to that, so
Well,
I
it
don't have
says
anything to
presentation and discussion of an ordinance amending
Yes,
Chapter
ma'am.
10?
Yes, ma'am, but there's no ordinance attached, so I'll defer to.
We talked about this, Mayor, during our meeting. Remember this
Oh,
discussion?
yeah. But I was just going with the word ordinance. and
Exactly.
Ordinance tells me Sandra reads it, not I.
Right.
So I go ahead and read this one then? Okay. All right. Agenda item 7.3, presentation and discussion on an ordinance, amending Chapter 10, subdivision ordinance, renaming the zoning commission and establishing a planning and zoning commission as provided by the local government code and establishing associated rules, authority, and procedures. And this is a first reading as required by our charter. And Mr. Milan, if you'll continue, please. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is the first of two amendments that the council is going to potentially hear that are necessary in order to change the name and also change kind of the procedures and the duties of the zoning commission to a planning and zoning commission. The planning and the zoning commission's authority resides within the zoning code, and that is given to to the zoning commission and the city to have a zoning commission by the local government code, which is in Chapter 211. And as I've mentioned before, and I don't want to get too much into the details because I think I presented this to council before we actually went through this process. Most cities have have a planning and zoning commission. Most smaller cities, they merge the two. Larger cities like San Antonio have a planning commission and a zoning commission. They keep them separate, but most smaller cities kind of combine them. It's pretty rare for a city just to have a zoning commission that just does zoning. And so, we've had a zoning commission for years, and it was my opinion, and I presented that to y'all before we started this process, to start the process to create a planning commission and merge it with the zoning commission. And so when a city has both a planning commission and a zoning commission, they get their authority from, again, for zoning, they get their authority from Chapter 211 of the code, the local government code. And then for the planning commission, they get their authority from Chapter 212. And so Chapter 212 basically says a city can establish a planning commission, and the primary duty of the planning commission is really two things. Number one, look at plats, and also make reviews and recommend potential amendments to the city's comprehensive master plan. That's really their two big roles. And so we're anticipating going through a comprehensive planning effort. And so the zoning commission has traditionally been involved in that, so we need to go through the legal process to make sure they have the legal authority to do that. And also the city council has traditionally approved plats. So plats have never gone to the zoning commission because they don't have that authority. And so it's pretty typical for plats to go through a planning and zoning commission, and I would say it's also pretty typical for smaller cities to vest that authority to approve plats more with a planning commission or planning and zoning commission. And so that's essentially what we're talking about tonight, is one, making the necessary changes to the subdivision code to insert that authority with the planning commission and or potentially the city council. And so the city attorney was really helpful with me when I was starting to go through this process and figured, okay, what are the steps to do this? And so really the reason why we're here tonight and we don't have an ordinance is because we want council's feedback on the path to take on how to structure the subdivision code and structure that approval process for plats. And once we get your feedback, then we'll go ahead and finalize and redline those ordinance revisions. But wanted to start the process with y'all tonight and introduce this item. So I already kind of went through the legal aspects of it, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump to the three possible methods. And again, planning and zoning commission, they get their authority from y'all, so I want to make sure y'all are kind of a part of that process. So as the city attorney has advised, there really are three possible methods for a city to process plats. the first method is plats and replats are approved by a planning commission, and that's it. It goes to the planning commission, and they're the final say on it. The second method is plats and replats are approved by a planning commission and a city council. So it's kind of almost sort of like zoning in that method. You know, it goes to the zoning commission first, they make a recommendation, and then it comes to the council and it's approved. Or in the last method is plats and replats are approved by a planning commission unless there's a variance request associated with that plat. And in that case, then the zoning commission considers the plat, considers the variance, and makes a recommendation on that to the city council, and then the city council is the final say on that. So those are really the three methods. And the method we do right now isn't even up here. It's just, we don't have a planning commission. It just comes straight to the council, and y'all consider the plat and the variance. And so, and again, one of the impetus for even doing this in the first place and creating a planning commission to consider plats is because a lot of cities do this, and there's an efficiency to it. The planning and zoning commission, you know, that's their purview. That's what they're, you know, y'all only have so much time to consider all the business of the city, and so the logic is that we have a board that's on top of all the planning and activities and all the zoning activities and the long-range planning, because they're all interrelated. So you have one board, that's their bailiwick, and they're great at what they do, and they consider all those things. So that's kind of the impetus. So that's kind of why we're at a point where we're looking at these three methods tonight. I would say, and Mr. Erkin, if you could correct me if I'm wrong, I would say that this option here is the most common. At least it's the most common that I've dealt with in my experience, and definitely.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may.
You may.
I just want to point out something. You know, in zoning, you have legislative prerogative to approve or disapprove a zoning case, and you know, the test is a very low bar for you. You have to have a legitimate public purpose for approving or disapproving, and your decision has to be rationally related to the public purpose. And so that is like the lowest bar to cross. In platting, as Brennan knows, it's ministerial. If the applicant meets all the code provisions, then the plat has to be approved. If your city engineer says, yep, the plat meets all our code, it has to be approved. And that's why the legislature said, you know, we're going to delegate responsibility to approving plats to the planning commission if that's what the city wants to do, because it's ministerial. There's no real legislative thought in it. The only time there is with variances. With variances, the applicant has to show hardship, and if they don't show the hardship, then the variance can be denied. And that's why most cities, and why I think Brennan is recommending that plats, which are ministerial, just go to the planning commission, and then variances, which you do have some legislative authority to decide, you hear those. And so I think that's why he made that recommendation.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
I always want to ask questions first, but we're changing that. It's hard for me to get into that other mode. Okay. So thank you. Do you have anything else to offer?
I don't.
Here.
Summarize that correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're opening up for citizen comment on this particular agenda item, 7.3, on planning, zoning and planning commission. If there's any comments from our citizens in the chambers. Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move to the council. Is there any comments or question to Mr. Milan on this particular agenda item? Okay. I had some. I mean, as I remember, I mean, the plat is just you're taking the piece of property and you're just reallocating the piece of property, right? I mean, it's just drawing lines, correct? Or is there more to
You're
that?
taking one tract of land and you're subdividing it to two or more.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing.
That's all we're doing.
Creating lots.
Creating lots. I remembered that. Okay. So give me an example of a variance on that.
Right-of-way width.
I'm sorry?
Right-of-way width is pretty common.
Oh, okay.
Or, you know, the zoning code has minimum standards for lot size. Somebody may want, or for lot width, they may want to have a real narrow lot, or some codes have requirements for, certain shapes of lots, won't let you, leave a regularly shaped lot that can't be developed. Variances happen with, sometimes people may request a variance for drainage requirements. They may request, they may not want to, construct a certain type of street section. They may not want to extend a water line a certain distance or loop a water line. All of those public improvements, those kind of fall into the subdivision process. So there's a lot of different.
Whenever it's not reallocating the lines on the property, when you go outside of that, then that's the variance. Is that? Well, that's subject to a variance.
So a subdivision code has standards. They have standards for the creation of the lots, and they also have standards for the extent to which the subdivision has to be improved. And so, like I said, they, for development standards. So somebody may request a variance from the development standards and the quality. They may request a variance to have to actually pave the road. They may request a variance to not have to put in a cul-de-sac per the fire department for a turnaround for fire trucks.
But all of those major changes would still come to the council.
Yes, that's according to the method.
I mean, that's what you're recommending.
Yes,
Staff
ma'am.
is recommending number 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I guess, if it's ministerial, that's fine. But the council's elected, so they're accountable, whereas the planning commission and the zoning commission are not elected, and so they're not. So I want to be sure that accountability is there.
Absolutely, and that's why that's the method I recommend, because a variance is, that's having that come, like with zoning, it goes to the ZBO.
And who would sign the plats then?
Right now, the code requires that the mayor sign the plats.
But you could change that if you have the plan. If you opt for what Brennan's recommended, you could change that to have the chairman of the planning and zoning commission sign the plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I've done. But if it's not a council function and it's a planning and zoning, that was my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. All right, anything else? All right, so this is the first read. And so we will take this back up.
I'm sorry, it's not the first read. I think he's looking for consensus of 1, 2, or 3.
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Well, I think
3.
3 is fine with me, is that, Mr. Bradshaw, you consent with number 3 as well? Since it's a ministerial job for plats and replats. Okay.
So next time, then, we would bring an ordinance back with the language in number 3 in it, now that we've received this direction.
Okay, and then that would be the second read.
Be the first read.
That would be the first read. Okay, so I'm confused because we have first read here. So
We're
let me
taking a
scratch
little
that
bit
out.
longer this time,
me scratch
just
it.
in an effort to garner your input.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Mayor, we didn't know which option you wanted.
And I appreciate that.
And now
I think that's great.
we can
Yeah.
make craft an ordinance settle.
You bet. You bet. Okay. All right. So you have your direction, and so then we'll see the first read on the next council meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Then moving then to agenda item 7.4. Presentation, I wasn't sure, presentation and discussion amending Chapter 15 zoning ordinance, renaming the zoning commission and establishing a planning and zoning commission as provided by the local government code and establishing associated rules, authority, and procedures, and a public hearing on said amendment. So we will have a public hearing on this. So is it basically, go ahead, it's just basically a name change?
Yes, ma'am. This one's easier. With the last one, we had to kind of talk more about procedures, but this is just changing the zoning code. No changes in their procedures. And we have to have a public hearing on this one because we're actually changing the zoning code. That requires public hearing.
Can you just show our citizens, I was actually amazed to see how many entities had a planning and zoning commission. I mean, I felt like, gosh, we're kind of left out,
I don't know if it's on this.
No, I was really surprised. Is it on that one or the other one?
I think it's an attachment.
But I would like the citizens to see it because, to me, I thought,
It's the chart with, it's lime green, like a
Yeah.
light green.
I mean,
Every city we represent, except for Leon Valley, has
couldn't
a
believe
planning
it.
and
I was
zoning
really
commission.
surprised. I mean, I thought, gosh, what's the question, Yeah, we're behind the times, exactly. So, anyway, so that we can open up the public hearing so y'all could see that, as Mr. Urquhart said, we're actually one of the last cities that they represent, you know, that will adopt the formal zoning and planning commission. Well, so that we can open up the public hearing so y'all could see. No, please. And look, there probably won't be one comment, right? Happens every time. But I just wanted y'all to see what, I don't know, did that stick out at your, Mr. Hody and Mr. Bradshaw? Did it stick out? I don't know, it stuck out to me when there we go.
There it is.
Look at that. I mean, I was counting them all. Couldn't believe it. The dark green is the Planning and Zoning Commission. And of course, you had already explained San Antonio because they're big, so they need a zoning and a planning commission.
Castle Hills is the only city in the area that just has a zoning commission.
And there was one that didn't have anything, Hollywood Park.
And they're general law.
Hollywood
Most
Park
of them are
has
general law,
nothing,
yeah.
you know? But I mean, they don't even have a zoning. I mean, we were general law and had a zoning commission, so I mean, I was like really surprised about them.
Are the other cities that planning a zoning comparative to us, size-wise?
Let's see. Universal City's pretty close to us. Where's Live Oak? They're not on here? Live Oak?
Did I put Live Oak on?
Live Oak has a planning and zoning.
They have a planning and zoning. They're not on here. They're pretty comparable to us, too. And Universal City. And the other ones, I don't know about Bulverde. Schertz is much bigger than we are. And Cibolo is much bigger than we are.
Well, Verdi's 5,000.
Yeah, and Almas Park is smaller, and Alamo Heights is smaller, and Terrell Hills is definitely smaller. And they're home rule, but they're much smaller than we are. So Chavano Park is smaller than we are. So is Balcones Heights and Helotes, and they've got a planning and zoning. Okay, enough said. Please, let me open up the public hearing at 8:58 and see if anyone would like to comment on this. Okay, pretty obvious, right? Okay, so then we'll close the public hearing at 8:58. And we can stand in line for a motion, I believe, according to the... We're amending our Chapter 15 of the zoning ordinance, renaming the zoning commission and establishing a planning and zoning commission. So is that what you all would like to do?
Yes.
Then we can do a motion and a second. No first read here.
So we can make a motion on it?
Yes, right?
Okay,
We
I'd like to
certainly
make a
can.
motion that we accept 7.4 as presented.
No, I think this is
I
a
think
first read.
It should be first read. If
It doesn't say first read,
Doesn't say first
y'all.
read.
So frustrating.
But it's not an
I never
ordinance.
know.
But there's not an ordinance
There's not an
attached to
ordinance.
it.
Oh.
Yeah, there's not an ordinance attached.
That's
We're
not first-
amending the existing
Yeah,
ordinance.
it's just, yeah, it requires 2 readings. This is the first time y'all have gotten this, so. And it's under the regular agenda
Yes,
portion.
it has to be adopted by ordinance.
Yeah.
Presentation, discussion, amendment. Well, I think it's amending of the zoning ordinance. That's the ordinance. And so it reads awkwardly.
It
but
does, and
yeah.
it doesn't say first read.
Yeah, it does not say first read.
I rely
But
upon
by
my...
your charter, you have to have
Okay.
2 reads.
So,
This is the
Next
first
time
reading.
it would say
So,
second
motion-
read.
second reading, we'll put it,
Right.
yeah, it should go pretty quickly. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. So
And
let me put
I
that
guess the
just-
question is, because we kind of made the decision not to put ordinances on all these, that was, as a group, we decided, I think y'all talked about that. So,
The decision was to not put an ordinance on number 7.3 so that you could get some guidance from the council on which one they preferred, so the ordinance could be drafted in accordance with that. It doesn't mean all of them are going to be like that.
Right.
so if we don't have an ordinance attached to it and we're having a public hearing this time,
Not the first, we don't have an ordinance.
yeah.
Okay,
So we need to have 2 more
Correct.
readings after this then. Okay.
That's
So everything will come back next time, and we don't have an ordinance attached to this one either, because we're going to get some feedback from the council on it, so we'll come back at the next meeting with ordinances on all 3 of these, and then...
So we
we'll
don't need a motion and a second.
Yeah, I
on this.
apologize.
So
Let
we'll
me
withdraw
clarify.
that.
The public hearing was required under Chapter 211 because this is a change in your zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Okay. And so you had the public hearing, and the next step will be to bring the ordinance forward to you and have 2 readings.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll move on then to Agenda 7.5. Presentation and discussion amending Section 15.02.113 zoning code of the City of Leon Valley Code of Ordinances regarding noticing and scheduling requirements for public hearings and a public hearing on said amendment. That doesn't say first read.
Yeah,
so
I don't think we have an ordinance, right?
No.
We just
No.
want the public hearing at this point.
You just want the public hearing and no action. Okay, very good. So, Mr. Milan, if you'll continue, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The purpose of this item is to amend the zoning code regarding the public noticing requirements in the code. So state law says that under Chapter 211, which is the portion of the local government code that gives city zoning authority and spells out the procedures they need, state law says that the city needs to provide adequate noticing of a public, it says public hearing is required and that a city needs to provide adequate public noticing of that hearing. And so noticing happens in a few different ways. Number one, it happens on the agenda that we post outside. That's public notice. And then the state law also says that prior to a public hearing by a zoning commission or a planning and zoning commission, the city needs to send out notice no less than 10 days before the public hearing. It needs to send out notice to all the property owners within 200 feet of that property. That's just written notice, a letter. And then state law also says at least 15 days prior to the public hearing before city council, the governing body, the city needs to publish notice in a newspaper of general circulation. And so that's all that state law requires. It says mailed out notice before the zoning commission hearing and published notice before the council meeting. Some cities go a step forward, a step above, and require that signage be placed out in front of the property, and they codify that in their code. That's not a state law requirement. That's just an additional requirement that some cities put into their code. We don't have that written into our code. But what we do have written into the code is that the city has to send out published notice not only 15 days before the council meeting, but that the city needs to send out published notice 15 days before the zoning commission meeting as well. So it has this, it goes above and beyond with the published notice. So I've been here for about a year and a half, and we've continued this practice in that time. And in that time period, I've just noticed, processing zoning requests, it gives us some additional constraints. Zoning cases and SUPs they're not the easiest thing to work on. There's a lot of moving parts. We're trying to get all the submittals. A lot of times the application has additional things that are needed. Site plan needs to be changed a little bit. We may need additional traffic impact analysis. And so when you're trying to keep the ball rolling for a business, but you've got this extra week basically of a constraint where you either need to just call it and say, okay, we don't have enough time for the meeting or not, it makes it a little difficult. And each one of those notices costs $45 too. And so if you send out that notice preemptively and say something doesn't work out because you want to get that business on the next zoning commission meeting, somebody needs to pay for that extra $45. And again, I've just noticed, we're doing a lot of double notices, sending out extra notices, and it makes it more difficult to coordinate with the business owner. And so after about nearly 2 years of dealing with this additional noticing, and frankly, I kind of got to a point with the last request with Mr. Anderson where we needed to send out 3 different notices, and coordinating. I was like, this is kind of problematic, and frankly, I was struggling to see who this benefits. And so, brought this up to the zoning commission and recommended the zoning commission, how do y'all feel about just removing this additional requirement from the code? They didn't see any concerns with it. The only thing that they advised, they said, hey, why don't, publish notice, that's, most people get their notice through the written letter. So they didn't have any concerns with the published notice, but they did ask that we go ahead and change the code to actually require that a sign be placed out in front of the property to get extra attention so people can see that when they're driving by, and I think that's a great idea. So the zoning commission considered this. They didn't have any concerns with removing that additional public notice. They just recommended approval to amend the code, remove the additional 15-day notice for zoning commission, but change the code to require that a sign be also placed out in front of the property at least 10 days before the public hearing, before the zoning commission and the city council.
Okay. Just to follow up to that, who pays for that?
The applicants would be paying for the sign.
Okay.
And so
I see that in the city of San Antonio all the time. They have a sign in front saying that there's going to be well, we're in a historic district downtown, and it's at the Historic Commission. They're having a hearing. So I see that all the time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So let's open up the public hearing at about 7 minutes after 9. And is there any input on agenda item 7.5 about noticing and scheduling requirements for public hearings in the zoning code? All right. Seeing no one else, then I will close the public hearing and ask if the council has any questions or comments on this for Mr. Milan. I just had another question. Did I understand that we're like one of the only few, or are we the only suburban city that required these 2 notices? Is that what I'm understanding?
I can't say confidently that we're the only city, but
You're in the minority.
We're in the minority. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
And the reason being is that...
And then why? Why did we put that in there?
I don't know why you put it in there, but
okay.
I can tell you that newspaper notice is the least effective notice that you have. I've been doing this a long time. People that see the signs, they'll come to the hearing. People who get a letter will come to the hearing. But very seldom does somebody says, oh, I was checking the classifieds and saw the public notice. It just doesn't happen that often.
Okay, just thank you for that clarification, because that's what I thought we had discussed. So, okay, thank you. And then we do not take a vote, and this will be on for the next, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So, all right, now we're all over the map. So, agenda item number 9, Mr. Habib, do we not take this since
Which one is that?
it's the...
I left my...
No, and I wish could you address the news? Is there a ministerial duty on recall election that needs to be explained? I don't know if that...
Discussion and possible action to order a special meeting. That's in your charter that the members who are subject to the recall have the right to have this special meeting for the purpose. They get 30 minutes each, I believe, to address the citizens.
All right.
So if you could.
Yes, I will. Discussion and possible action to order a special meeting for the purpose of permitting Donna Charles Place 1, Council Place 1, and Monica Alcacer, Council Place 3, the opportunity to present a response to the reasons for recall specified in the recall petitions as certified and reported to City Council by the City Secretary on January 7th, 2020. And Ms. Pesley, do you have a PowerPoint on this? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Wake up, Crystal. Sorry, let me wait for Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal.
I didn't even know what item we were on either, so Crystal's back in the building. Okay. Okay, this item, sorry, my dimmer's over there. Can y'all see that? Okay. This item is in accordance with Section 6.05 of the Home Rule Charter on public hearings to be held on recall petitions. The individual who's, and yes, I'm going to read this because it's straight out of the charter. The individual whose removal is sought may, within 5 working days after such recall petition has been presented to the City Council, request a special meeting to be held to permit him or her to present a response to the reasons for the recall specified in the recall petition. The 5th day for this one was Tuesday, January 14th. Council Place 1, Donna Charles, and Council Place 3, Monica Alcacer, both submitted their request for a hearing to my office on January 13th. City Council shall order such meeting to be held no more than 30 days and no less than 15 days before the early voting. So your 30 days, as we discussed last meeting, is Saturday, March 21st, and your 15th day before early voting is Sunday, April 5th. The next general election to be held is early voting is Monday, April 20th through Tuesday, April 28th. So your special hearing would be within that window of March 21st and April 5th.
Okay.
If you have any questions, you can contact me.
Okay. So does the council need to formally choose a date tonight, or what is the action?
If that's what you wish to do, then
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so I'll open it up. Let's see.
You'll put it citizens
I
first.
need to go citizens first, that's right. Any citizen like to comment on agenda item number 7.9? Okay. Good evening and welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
Cassie Rouse. I live in Grass Valley. I just have a question regarding the timing of setting it. If we haven't yet approved when a recall election is happening, how can we set a date for this if it has to happen within a specific time period from the election?
Well, that's what I was asking Mr. Habib,
But
Mr.
the
Urquhart.
the charter
address.
provides that, well, first, the charter provides that this be done in a certain date. Secondly, the election is going to be on the next agenda, and those issues will be addressed.
So then can you guys vote on it if that issue's not addressed yet?
Yes.
Okay. It's only between this date and this date.
That's correct,
Right.
yes.
And so it has to be within that date. And then would you address the ministerial duty of a recall election? Isn't that?
Yeah, here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to ask the city manager at the next meeting that there be an executive session so I can advise city council in a confidential setting what the issues are related to not going ahead and going forward with the election. But I would ask that we could do that in an executive session.
Okay. All right.
Mayor, I had a question.
Yes, you sure may. Councilor Rodriguez.
He'll be asking for an executive session. Is that in the presence of Alcacer and Charles, or?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the
Okay.
merits of the recall. What it has to do with is what the election code says and what your charter says in regards to an election. So I don't think they're disqualified from hearing what I have to say about both the special and the regular election.
All right, thank you.
All right.
So,
Yes,
so then
ma'am.
follow-up question, because you said it was within a specific date period?
Yes,
But
right
according
here,
to this,
Saturday, March 21st to Sunday, April 5th.
But the actual wording is that it's in regards to when the election is happening, so it's not a specific date period, it's days regarding the election, which is why I was confused about how you could vote on this if...
Oh. Well, the election is May 2nd, and early voting is May 20th. And so my understanding is it's 30 days prior to early voting is one date, which is Saturday, March 21st, and the 15 days.
So then
it's
to
between then.
clarify from what happened earlier, even if you don't pass the resolution on the election, it still happens on that day? Because that's where I'm confused. Because that didn't...
I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer your question at this time.
I agree.
I apologize.
Okay. Okay, it's just really confusing.
But you're still saying that we can go forth and set
You
that?
can go forward with this because it's a charter requirement, and I will advise the city council in closed session at the next meeting about the election issues.
Right, okay. But we can still set this hearing.
And we've already put the election on, Sandra and I, as we're sitting here, have already put the this exact, would be 7.8 has already been put on for the next meeting, and I've already emailed Habib actually earlier asking him for language for an executive session. So we're on it. Thank you.
So I think I would ask Ms. Charles, do you have a preferred date?
Well, since I know what the dates are that I must select, I will look at my calendar and get back with you, if that's okay.
Okay.
And then Ms. Alcacer is not here, so we can do that next meeting also.
Okay, so we'll just add it to the next meeting then. Okay. Is that the consensus? I mean, does everyone agree with Ms. Charles on that? Okay, so we'll going to have a big agenda next time too. So, okay. All right. So, with that said, we'll move to citizens be heard. Anyone left in the chambers that would like to address the council at this time, please come forward. It's approximately 9:18, and we'd love to hear from you if you have anything to add. Okay? Then, seeing no one, we'll move to adjourn without objection on Tuesday, January 21st at 9:18 in the evening. Thank you all, and good evening.
You're welcome, Mayor.
My love, and I think I know where you're going on the executive session. I mean, did Martha leave her stool? Did she? No, I gave it to
I didn't want, I didn't.
No, I understand. I think you're right. And if I had known about it, you could have
I had,
the executive session.
yes, I had no idea.
I had no idea.
Yeah, but I can't compel them to second and take the vote, but I can advise them. That's why I asked Sandra, I said, do we have time? So let's look at that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. But it looks like we're going to also have the home rule charter to be called as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I just don't know what that unwieldy document's going to look
I
like.
know, that's a pretty aggressive charter.
I know. It's just,
Yeah.
and I guess my other question is, you know, it's kind of like, here's all the suggested changes, or could you just have none of the above, or all of the above? You know, I mean, I just don't know what that balance
Well,
will look like.
it's gonna, I think almost each one of them, there's a couple that will be together, but I think each one stands separately. And then there's one that's dependent on how you answer the first one, on term limits. So, as council, you can decide whether or not you want to have all 34, or you want to take some out. I'm just gonna suggest something. If you just for simplicity, excuse me, there's a thing on the measure. There's a measure on there. It's a good measure. It says take out. Put the city instead of city. But if you've got such a big ballot, you may want to take that out, saying, you know what, if we're fine with city, and there's a couple more like that you might want to look at that really substantively don't do anything. You say, you know what, yeah, we get it, but that's not really important. Yeah, it's just if we only had a couple of items, so I would look at those and see which ones are not. Sure.
I kept a running log of ask Charlie, ask Charlie, ask Charlie.
Okay, because I was going to get with
Okay, did you want me to?
no, if you have a running log,
Well, I do, and so, I mean, but I'll get together with Crystal to make sure it's comprehensive
okay,
too.
yeah, that'd be
So,
great.
yeah.
I really appreciate that.
You bet. I usually try to do something like that.
Thank you so
Have
much.
a good evening.
You too.
And I'm sorry that we're so contentious. I don't want to say. You didn't realize what y'all were jumping into. Presentations that night.
I'm gonna wait for them to. I'll bring it to you.
To live from way out of the city, but they said, the elephant in the room, we know what's going on. They were the only one to recognize.
Well, yeah, and I keep saying the same thing. I understand everybody that sits up here, they want to do what's best for the city. The problem is, and it's not, this one's not a problem, but these people have different ideas what the best interest of the city is. The problem is the way it's articulated, it's demonstrated, when it's demonstrated. So, I have great.
Bless your heart, that's
Yeah,
all I gotta say.
I have great, admiration for all y'all for doing what you're doing, and so I don't really,
You've got a lot of patience, and I do appreciate it. Thank you for your words of wisdom.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night. You want to put that on for the Lions Roar submission?
What's that?
You know, the Lions Roar submission that I sent you, and I never saw your,
No worries, I'm just turning off the second one.
you have no idea, I was out of town. Kids doing? All weekend.
My daughter's doing
and
great.
2 days during the week.
Oh, God, no, I have to I only have one kid. You can't do this job and have a whole family.
Well, and I know, and I.
But my daughter
And
just,
I didn't know, I've been to Dallas at 4 o'clock to go to
I was pregnant with her.
an agenda meeting, and so I did my phone only goes back.
Well, even then, I mean, for as long as I
That you had responded, well, then when I went back to my computer the next day, I saw that you had responded like at 11:53 in the morning, and I'm like, what? And I was on the road, and, it was